Our first committee of the day is the Planning and Economic Development Committee. Those committee members are Fusco, Kamer, Connor, Baylor, and Mosley. We do have all members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I believe we are ready. Can we please begin the Planning Committee of Akron City Council, and a roll call, please. Madam Clerk.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Baylor.
Aye.
Mosley. All members are present.
Thank you. Very good. Also like to entertain a motion that we accept the minutes of the previously held meeting.
So.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, cool. The ayes have it. We have a couple items actually that's up for a public hearing today. We'll go over the ground rules and how we follow the procedures here, and then we'll go into the public hearings that we have scheduled. The procedures are, we'll do is read in we'll get a report from the planning department on the particular item. Then what we'll do is we'll ask that if there's anyone here that wishes to testify before the committee in reference to the conditional use and or the public hearing, that they be sworn in by a representative of our law department. Okay. After that, what will happen is the committee members will close the public hearing. The committee members will then have an opportunity to ask questions, and we'll open it up to all of council. They will have that opportunity as well. We'll then repeat that process this evening at 7 o'clock, and we'll make a report after the public hearing at 7 o'clock. So you'll also get an additional opportunity to speak tonight at 7 o'clock. After that public hearing, the committee will then make a recommendation to all of council, either in favor, against, or to table an item that may be taken up later. So those are the procedures, and certainly we invite those who wish to participate this evening. They can come in person and or via Zoom. So those are the procedures. So the first item that's up for public hearing is the ordinance approving 2022 Consolidated Action Plan, including applications, certifications for the Community Development Block Grant Funding Home Investment Partnership Emergency Solutions Grant, authorizing the Director of Planning and Urban Development to enter into all necessary contracts for the operation and term of those programs. Ms. Tomic.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. The City of Akron's 2022 Annual Consolidated Plan prioritizes a budget of expenditure of Community Development Block Grant Funds, Home Investment Partnership Funds, and the Emergency Solutions Grant Program for the homeless. The goals of the programs are to assist primarily low and moderate income persons, to improve existing housing, develop affordable housing, and expand economic opportunities, and to aid the homeless. The city is budgeting approximately $8.6 million. This includes $6,017,000 of community development block grant funds, which represents a 3% decrease from the 2001 funding allocation, $1.6 million of home funds, which represents a 13.7% increase in 2021 funding, and $521,000 of emergency solutions grant programs, which represents about a 0.6% decrease from 2021. Also, we are budgeting about $400,000 of program income. We're estimating receiving $200,000 of CDBG funds and $200,000 in home funds in 2022 as program income. Those funds are then repurposed in the 2022 budget. The 22 plan has among its recommendations the following key initiatives: continuing the Akron Housing Program in conjunction with the lead program and roofing program to support revitalization of our housing stock, continuing the construction of new housing, improvements to our parks and community centers, supporting nonprofit community housing development organizations, supporting emergency community development corporations or CDCs, supporting minor home repair program, assisting local emergency and transitional housing shelters, along with the support of the homeless prevention and rapid rehousing program, continuing support of the community services program, and ongoing support of the Great Streets program. The consolidated plan strategy includes a narrative describing the housing needs of the low-income families, homeless families, and others with special needs within the city of Akron. The consolidated plan is a one-year budget of a five-year budget that was passed by council about 3 years ago. With that, we open it up for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that extremely brief report. Appreciate that. I'll ask a representative of our law department to please swear in any individuals that wish to speak before the committee today. Please swear any individuals. Swear in.
Anyone wishing to speak, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying I do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we'll ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak in favor of the Consolidated Action Plan. If you could please come up to the microphone and please introduce yourself, and I appreciate you coming down.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you all so much. Members of the Planning Commission, members of council, employees of the City of Akron. I'm Rochelle Sibio. I'm the president and CEO of Habitat for Humanity in Summit County. I've been in my role now, I'm 17 years in, so quite some time since we were founded in 1986. We have built in this community in Summit County 218 homes to date. 176 of those have been in the City of Akron. We've been utilizing home funds since 2012, $1.4 million to date of home funds, which has created 30 new homes, new construction homes built in the city. And we leverage those home dollars because it's not the full subsidy for the construction of what it costs us to build. So we have to leverage that money with other community partners and faith partners to raise the dollars necessary to build the home. We also have been successfully using the tax abatement program since it was started. We have submitted 19 homes to date for the 15-year real estate tax abatement. Again, all 19 of those homes did receive home funding on them. That includes the 8 homes that we built in a development on East Avenue across from Innis Community Learning Center, again in partnership with the city for home funds and some infrastructure dollars for the sidewalks, sanitary laterals, and water lines. We are currently working through the approved RFP for a 16-home development with the city on what is called the Blinn Street development in North Hill. We hope to rename it something else other than Blinn Street, but we don't know what that will be quite yet. But again, that will be 16 new homes, again, working with Helen and her team on home funds and potentially ARPA funds for those homes as well. We've also been a partner in CDBG funds with the CDC grants and have been awarded over the years $215,000 of those funds to do community programming. Things like the improvements we've made in Boss Park, which is a City of Akron public park, as well as our Aging in Place home repair program and some critical home repairs over the years. We'll be welcoming with open arms. I know the ARPA program is not so much a part of the consolidated plan initiatives, but we are waiting for that RFP to come out as well. And we were recently awarded $3.5 million from the Mackenzie Scott from her family foundation, and we'll be leveraging those funds in a variety of ways in addition to partnering those and layering those for subsidies with the home money. We'll be partnering for $500,000 of that money for down payment assistance programs for members of our community, especially to increase Black home ownership, as it's a priority of our Habitat National Office. $1 million layered in new home construction, $1 million for purchase, rehab, and resale, partnering with the Summit County Land Bank to purchase some homes there. So again, it's always been our goal to layer subsidy of home construction, and without the home dollars or the support from CDBG funds, as well as just the administration overall, and the mayor coming out, and many of you as council members have been out to build on homes. I have proof of Tara out on a Women Build project, Women in Government, actually with a hammer in her hand too. So we appreciate all of your support when it comes to volunteer opportunities to create a better place here in the city of Akron for families to purchase homes. So thank you.
Thank you for all your good work, and thank you for your time and testimony today.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Vince Adamas. I am with the East Akron Neighborhood Development Corp. And there's a lot to like about the consolidated plan. I'll mention just two things briefly. One is to method, one is to content. The method, I'm impressed at the city's commitment to having a consolidated plan for these programs, for these funding sources, allows the city to operate more efficiently and in regards to that more effectively at the end of the day towards these important programs. While there's
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can you pull the microphone a little closer? Those online are having a hard time hearing you.
Is that better?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry. While there's a lot to like, I'll just mention briefly the focus on both housing rehabilitation and new construction. One of these is often overlooked. These are both critical. We have to maintain what we have. It sends the right signal to the community about maintaining our current assets, and new construction is also critical because, as everybody knows by now, we exist in a marketplace, and new construction sends a signal and provides the right type of housing to keep us current in the marketplace. So I applaud the city's commitment to those two and the other pieces of the consolidated plan as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you do. Anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of the consolidated action plan? Anyone in favor? Anyone against? Anyone against? Very good. We'll close the public hearing portion.
Mr. Chair, we had some people join remotely. I'm not sure if any of them plan to speak.
Okay. Yes, the first question is, were they sworn in?
They were not.
Okay.
If you're here via Zoom and plan to speak, can you please turn your camera on? Okay.
All right.
They may not plan to speak. Thank you.
Very good. We'll now close the public hearing portion and open up to any committee members that may have questions or comments in reference to the consolidated action plan. I'm of the understanding that we do not need to pass this now. Oftentimes, whenever we submit to the federal government, as we know, we have deadlines and commitments. And so at this time, though, I believe we do have some time. Is there a certain time frame, Ms. Tomic, for this?
Before August 16th.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Of course. I see, I saw Mr. Malik, and then Ms. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Ms. Tomic. I have two questions. The first is, can you talk a little bit about the plans with regard to homelessness prevention in this plan, and then how any changes or changes in thinking over kind of last year's plan?
So these funds are strictly emergency solutions grant funds. So our allocation is about $520,000, and we are kind of restricted on how we utilize those funds. In the 2009-10 Hearth Act, HUD indicated whatever our allocation for, at that time of ESG, whatever that allocation was, say it's $250,000, anything above and beyond that $250,000 in future years must go towards homeless prevention and rapid rehousing dollars. So we are currently, and we issue an RFP every year, we're currently contracting with United Way, and they administer those funds for us. So we do have those resources, and we also have some resources through the Continuum of Care dollars. And then about 2 years ago, Congress released what I've referred to as ESG COVID dollars. I think it was about $3.6 million, and we're still utilizing those funds. We have to spend 80% by the end of September, and then after that we have another couple years, or I think through September of 23 to spend those funds. So we are reevaluating the funds that are remaining in the best way to expend those funds, but we are looking at the rapid rehousing component of that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. The other question was, I know that the write-up mentioned that there was a consolidated plan needs meeting at the library.
Correct.
What kind of engagement did we have there?
We send out letters to folks. We sent out, I believe, about a couple hundred letters.
And how many folks attended?
4.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess I wanted to ask, not to put anyone on the spot, and but really, I know we've talked here in council of our own challenges in getting people to public meetings, and so maybe that's an area that we can focus on, particularly in future years, of ways of getting the word out, and maybe, getting things started earlier and working with council, because we all have a responsibility.
Understood.
I have a responsibility.
And I've thought about that. We've had some internal discussions about ways we can improve that. So
Yeah,
looking forward to next year. That's something we will certainly consider.
thank you.
Ms. Holland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if we have some detail available as to eligibility criteria for housing rehabilitation grants and loans for homeowners.
So the CDBG funds are currently constructed in a manner or utilized in a manner to partner up with our lead program. With our lead funds, we are restricted, and I don't know if Thomas is on the call. I believe we're restricted to $10,000 of lead funds per home and $5,000 of healthy home funds. But as we go out into those homes, we find that the needs are greater than that $15,000. So we utilize the CDBG as match and to supplement the other repairs that are needed in those lead houses.
Thank you. And is there a direction that residents can be pointed at this time to start the process of qualifying for this assistance?
Yes, we can, I believe it's on the City of Akron Housing Rehabilitation Division website, but I can follow up on that and get back to you. It doesn't need to meet lead requirements as well. So there needs to be a child under the age of 6 residing in the house or visiting, I believe, 20 hours a month in order to be eligible for those funds.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Mosley?
Thank you. Quick question, Helen. Thank you for the detail in this proposal. When I go to number 10, which is part of the Great Streets Akron Business District, I see that there's $400,000 allocated specifically for the Great Streets. In the past, Great Streets has been matching. Are we still doing that with these funds, or are we going to get rid of the matching part?
We are looking at that. We do understand that COVID has provided some struggles for businesses, and so we are looking at that very closely. And I'm hoping we can come to a decision within the next couple of months.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Okay, very good. Thank you. Again, I'd like to invite those back, if you'd like to, this evening, to come back at 7 o'clock. Again, the committee is going to recommend either favorable or against or time, but in all likeliness, we're going to take time and go over this. And if there's questions, Ms. Tomek will certainly forward them to you.
Yes, if you can forward them to me via email, that would be greatly appreciated.
You got it.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. The second item that's going to be up for a public hearing today is the ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an oversized accessory building at 1954 Stockbridge. We'll receive the report. After the report, we'll swear you in, and then we'll open it up. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Scott Hernandez is seeking approval to construct an accessory structure within the rear yard of his residence. The entire L-shaped structure will contain 1,874 square feet in area with a peak height of 21.2 feet. The zoning code permits an accessory garage of not more than 900 square feet with a peak height of 15 feet. As such, the conditional use approval is required for the additional square footage and excess height. The proposed accessory structure will be situated 10 feet east of the western property line, 25 feet from the rear or north property line, and 15 feet behind the house. Construction materials will consist of composite trim, horizontal lap siding, decorative vents, aluminum gutters, asphalt shingled roof. The southern half is intended for vehicle storage, and the northern half of the enclosed structure will contain a half bath, fitness area, kitchen, and lounge area. The area to the east of the interior kitchen lounge area will contain an open outdoor kitchen area underneath a hipped patio cover. The outdoor kitchen area will contain a 48-inch Argentina grill, wood-fired oven, chimney, and 2 separate eating areas. Petitioner stated that the 3 garage bays attached to the dwelling, which was built in 1930, are too small for a large modern vehicle. Additionally, the specs of the proposed accessory building were designed to match the existing dwelling, which contains strong architectural lines with steep-tip roofs and exterior panelized faces. Its placement on the large lot exceeds setback requirements and should not be intrusive to neighboring property. The structure will be for residential purposes with outdoor activity directed toward the interior of the lot. The proposed addition will be an enhancement to this property. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval, subject to conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, I'd like to ask a representative of our law department to please swear in any individuals that wish to testify before the committee.
Those wishing to speak, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying, I do. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now ask if there's anyone, we'll open up the public hearing, ask if there's anyone here wishing to testify in favor of the conditional use request. It's 1954 Stockbridge Road.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Hernandez, the owner. Very excited to be, just moved to West Akron and have a large family and looking to also enhance the home. We're doing some mechanical upgrades now. There's a beautiful home built in 1931. So the height restrictions were tough just because of which I need a variance for, just because of the height of the existing house is like a 12-12 roof. So that was one major thing. But really just excited about the neighborhood and being a fixture here and wanted to make this enhancement.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome.
Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor? Excuse me, anyone in favor? Anyone against? Anyone against? Very good. We'll close the public hearing portion of this conditional use request. Ask if there's any committee members have any questions. Okay. Any council members have any questions? Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to speak up in favor of this since it's located in Ward 8. There have been a number of similar projects over the last few years, and I think, it's very helpful to add to the value of the homes. Haven't received any concerns or complaints from anyone, any questions, so it sounds like something that, is a worthy thing to pursue.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, great. We'll invite you back this evening at 7 o'clock if you'd like to show up. After that, the committee will have a report after a public hearing this evening in which you'll have an opportunity to speak if you'd like. Again, thank you. Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 3, which is conditional use to establish a food production commercial kitchen at 714 Sumner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Brent Ian Wesley is requesting permission to establish a commercial food production facility on the property. Petitioner operates Akron Honey, a company that manufactures and sells raw honey. They have outgrown their current commercial kitchen location in Cuyahoga Falls, and the petitioner proposed to acquire this property and adapt it for reuse as a commercial food production facility. The building would also be used to display the processes used in creating their products. It would also be used as a commissary kitchen for new businesses who lack the means of renting their own facility and equipment. The current footprint of the building will remain unchanged. This property has been left vacant for a long period of time, and although it was commercially developed as a vehicle repair garage, it has lost its legal non-conforming status. The building contains 2,050 square feet of area, 41 feet by 50 feet. While the building is aging, it's well maintained and will not require extensive renovation. A large barbed wire fence currently surrounds the rear yard area. Petitioner stated that the property would be perfect to accommodate his growing business. The use will not be intrusive to abutting residents. In addition to revitalizing a long vacant commercial structure, petitioner intends to create a formal relationship with Leggett Elementary School to continue a honeybee curriculum that has existed in an informal capacity, as well as engaging in beautification efforts in and around the property. Goals of the Land Use and Development Guide Plan include encouragement, expansion, and development of commercial activities in areas suited to their needs, and to promote revitalization of viable business districts. This University Park property will be well-maintained, and the proposed establishment will be an enhancement and provide much-needed investment into the neighborhood. Both Planning Commission, Office of Integrated Development, and planning staff recommend approval, subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, we'll ask a representative from our law department to please swear in. If there's any individuals here wishing to speak on this particular item, please be sworn in by a representative of our law department.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying I do. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now open up the public hearing portion, and if anyone would like to be in favor of this, please step forward, introduce yourself.
Awesome. My name is Brent Ian Wesley. Most people know me as Wesley, the keeper of Akron Honey. Obviously, I'd love for this to happen. You know, and I'm a very transparent person as well. So, you know, I feel like I should probably let you know a few things have changed. They're outside of our control. It just kind of delayed us, at this point, delaying us taking over the building. We're going through the land bank to get it, and the taxes haven't been paid since, I think, 2009 or something like that. But during the hearing a few days back, just last week, the owner did show up, which is, you know, completely cool, and set up a payment plan, so that's kind of like delayed. And because of that, you know, we definitely are, you know, within the family, we've had our discussions. We're going to keep our options open, and, you know, in addition to that property, we've long been speaking with another property owner who is actually in North Hill, who has a commercial building that we've been keeping our eyes on, and, you know, so, you know, yes, hopefully this does work out, and if the summer property works out, we're there, but at the same time, you know, I'm not going to wait for external factors so that we can grow our business. So, you know, it's, you know, I agree everything that's been said about our business and what we intend to do. That's always been true, and you know, a lot of great things are happening within our business today. You know, shucks, we're launching Whole Foods in another few days now, and then, you know, in all of Ohio, and we're in Market District. We're doing a lot of different things, and it is really cool to be in a city where we can actually have an opportunity to grow and to do it in ways that lift other people up. I guess the last thing I wanted to, I guess, almost just mention is I did talk about another property that's in North Hill. One of the factors that we do look at is, you know, economic advantages. So, you know, what's it called? It's the Great Streets Akron initiative. I just heard us speak on that a little bit, and how that could be possibly, you know, the funding could be changing. So that's something we're also considering. However, so I'm eager to hear how that kind of shakes out. Hopefully it does stay around. It could be very helpful. So, but that's pretty much it. Thanks for your time, and y'all know how to find me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down. Thanks for all you do, and thank you for your commitment to Akron. Certainly appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And if we could stick around, maybe perhaps after the meeting here, perhaps some of these folks can talk with you. Thank you. Very good. And is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of this conditional use request? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone against? Okay, very good. We'll close the public hearing portion and open it up to committee members. Any committee members have any questions or comments? I see Sharon Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say we've had the opportunity to watch Wesley grow over the years, and every time it's more amazing. So I wholeheartedly support this, and it's just been a joy to watch him get. Thank you for your commitment to Akron.
Very good. Any other committee members? Council members? Anybody? Mr. Malik.
Just want to echo my colleagues' comments. I'm a really big fan of the petitioner and really appreciate his commitment to Akron, not just with his own business, but with this development. Hopefully will assist other entrepreneurs, because as we know from the work of the Well CDC, that, you know, having food production capacity is really important.
Anyone, any other questions? Oh, I see Ms. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to chime in and say this is an exciting business that has been a joy to watch. I'm a big fan. I too love the idea of creating a commercial kitchen and additional opportunities for other entrepreneurs to be lifted up. This is wonderful. I can't wait to see what happens next. Good luck.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Any questions or comments? Okay, very good. Again, we'll invite you back this evening at 7 o'clock. If you'd like to show up, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. And we'll now move on to the balance of the agenda at this time.
Mr. Chair, can you turn your microphone on, please?
I thought it'd be better if I turned it off. I figured everybody would appreciate that. We'll take time on through and including 13. And I understand that there's a substitute. Would you mind reading that in, Madam Clerk?
Substitute offered as an amendment, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a construction supply yard on both sides of Midway Street and declaring an emergency.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing that was conducted last week, and I know the Ward Council representative, Mr. Lombardo, has been working on this. So, Mr. Lombardo, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So, after the public hearing last Monday, there was about 10 residents that spoke regarding their concerns. A few of them had the same concerns, but just wanted to let the committee know that on Tuesday, following the public hearing, went to work discussing these concerns that they had with Kenmore Construction. They were agreeable to all of them. There's like 8 of them. That's why there's 8 additions to the ordinance here. They're all in bold. I'll go over a few of them here, but anyhow, they were agreeable to that. That's why we made the changes on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, passed out letters, well actually Wednesday night, passed out letters to all the residents, every house, no matter if they came or not. Oh, that's nice. Excuse me. Okay. So, and called for a neighborhood meeting on Thursday at 5 o'clock. And so that's what we did to discuss all their concerns, being, I'll mention a few of them here, as far as the fencing, just not a single fence around the perimeter, but a solid fence. It would have some material that makes it solid. They were concerned about stormwater or runoffs and things like that, and that'll be handled by Kenmore Construction. We have their commitment to do that. As far as lighting goes, the yard would not be lit up as maybe a neighborhood car lot would. This would just be some lighting, no brighter than maybe your garage security. We talked about the hours of operations, that they quit. We have until 6 p.m., but most days you go by there and they're done at 3 o'clock. They don't start any earlier than 7, but again, it's probably after 8, but we just gave them that leeway. The height of the piles were a concern, which will, with the fencing, you will be able to see some piles going 35 feet high, but they're not going to be, mountains. So anyhow, all the concerns were addressed by Kenmore, and we went over them with the residents, and they seemed pleased that the yard really it has been there for, I don't even know, 25 years or so, but Kenmore is agreeable to all this. Again, as far as the safety of the neighborhood, that was a concern with, somebody driving through and dumping. That will not happen. Kids playing on the rock piles, that would not happen anymore. So the safety will be addressed too. So definitely am rising in favor of this ordinance. It is in Ward 2, and Kenmore continues to be a good partner with the City of Akron in many other ways too. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your, am I still on? Any questions or comments from any committee members? Ms. Mosley?
Thank you. Question for Mr. Lombardo. When you guys had this community meeting, how many residents showed up? That's what I would like to hear.
There was 14.
How many people live in that neighborhood?
As far as the number of houses go, I didn't count the houses, but that's why I passed out letter to everybody. There are 3 duplexes, I guess, with 2 units. So if I had to take an educated guess as far as how many houses are in that neighborhood, I would say 20.
And
Seems
so
about
all the
right, 'cause
residents who...
there's 6 at least from those units.
Okay.
8, yeah.
And
I
those
can get it.
residents who showed up at the meeting, all of them were in agreement with these changes, or?
They were pleased with what we discussed with Kenmore. Then they had additional concern as far as creeping, so to speak, into their neighborhood, and that's not going to happen with the perimeter of the fence.
Okay, let me
So that we
tell you
had
what
a
my concerns are.
Yep.
My concern is because predating this right here and encroaching on this neighborhood, Kenmore has another location down by the Muscle part that has been very problematic to those residents down there. So I have concerns because of previous commitments that were made to a community, to a neighborhood that didn't move forward. So I would hate to see promises being made to these residents and them not keeping that promise. I will vote to bring it out of committee, but I won't be able to support it because I've had issues in the past with Kenmore and another part of the community. And I think it does a disservice to those residents down there for me to support one end of what Kenmore is doing in another neighborhood when they've had those same issues. So I will support bringing it out of committee, but I won't be able to support it.
Mr. Lombardo?
There is just wanted to say to the committee and council that there is a performance bond in place. So they will make good on all these items here in the ordinance. So that's been taken care of. Thank you.
Any other committee members? Oh, Ms. Baylor?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to both you. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you, Councilman Fusco, and also Councilman Lombardo, for your expedience in this case, and meeting with the constituents that were down at council after the meeting was really a great gesture, and I really appreciate you guys' timeliness in this matter, and also Kenmore Construction for meeting with you guys to rectify or to make it better for the residents that are in that area. So thank you very much for your work on this project and for the timeliness of doing it just, right away, not delaying it or anything like that. So that is appreciated from my standpoint, and I thank you guys very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Lombardo. As I've mentioned to Mr. Lombardo, I think the concerns that were raised last Monday about air pollution and particulate matter and the potential health impacts, those were the concerns that primarily bothered me. In what we heard last week. I did stop over yesterday and look at the property. And I know I spoke with Mr. Lombardo today. I know there's some documentation about EPA air tests, but I definitely think it's something that's worthy of consideration, particularly some of that testimony about the level of dust and it being so close, this industrial use being so close to a residential area. There is some idea of some pause in voting do something that will expand that, significantly.
Very good. Mr.
I'll let Mr.
McKittrick.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. In reference to other projects and properties with Kenmore Construction, I have one in my ward that runs off of Hillbush, close to 224. And as they started doing some work on the property there, and some of the neighbors, many of which are city employees who live on Cherrywood, and some other police employees, highway patrolman that lives over there, some teachers, they asked about it, and I reached out to Kenmore, and the owner was very quick to contact me, give me a good idea of what was happening there. This is a footprint that they've owned for a while. They are storing equipment there, many different items for different projects and stuff. And he had told me what they were doing was cleaning it up, doing some improvement to it, making it more secure so people wouldn't go back in there and dump and do anything like that. They actually added some lighting, which the neighbors were very appreciative of, and they actually put some security cameras, which the neighbors were very appreciative of. And everything he said he was going to do, they did do at that location. So very pleased with Kenmore in their lot that they have in Ward 6. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombardo?
Yes, just wanted to respond. First of all, thank you for those comments, Councilman McKittrick. There is a EPA report that Kenmore has passed every year. So beyond that, there's a water truck, if that's what you call it, water tank there, that they do spray down if they're doing any type of crushing or whatever they're doing back in a pit. So between that, the EPA report, it's just not a dust bowl back there. I mean, we are living in the city, so people's windows do get dirty, people's cars do get dirty, and we all have to wash. So anything out of the ordinary, that's not what this yard is. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is that favorable? Assume that's a favorable motion with suspension of the rules?
Yeah. I'm making a motion with a report.
Thank you. Is there a second? Very good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, very good. The ayes have it. We'll recommend favorable on that item. Item 15 is the ordinance expanding the existing downtown outdoor refreshment area within the city of Akron.
Mr. Chair, it appears that Mr. Neal's hand's raised on the Zoom.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Neal, can we help you?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, in regards to the legislation that you just voted on, I just have one question. And I share the concerns about the health issues and things that were shared. I don't know if this was addressed. The residents also spoke to the concern on the impact on their property value, stating how when this area was first utilized, how far back it was from their property, and it moved up. Has anything been discussed to try to determine what that impact is, and what could be done to make the residents whole?
No, I don't think we've ever done that before, Mr. Planning Director. If we measure, I don't know if that's how doable that would be before and after zoning, in terms of measuring the impact on value.
That analysis hasn't been done in this case, and I'm not aware of one that we've done in the past.
I don't believe we've had ever, and not in my time down here, in terms of measuring something like this. Mr. Lombardo, I saw your hand up.
Right, thank you. So, in my opinion, I mean, as far as the safety of the neighborhood goes, when you have the perimeter fenced in and we're not going to have any excess traffic that will do any illegal dumping, or like I mentioned, as far as kids jumping on the rock piles or anything like that, playing in that. The area, as far as safety is concerned, will be improved.
Yeah, and maybe at this point it might be prudent to go over some of the changes that was discussed with the community there. There's significant investment that's going to be made in this area that has not been made in terms of what was mentioned, the fencing. I know that the Midway, the street that's soon to be vacated, that's going to be improved. They've already improved the entrance off of Home Avenue. There's been investment in that, making it greener, a little nicer in terms of that. And the fencing, and we do have a commitment off of Ocean that there's a turnaround area that we had concerns, reference the trash trucks and such. They can't make that turn. They're going to expand that area, keep that green down there. In terms of the Scenic Way side, which is on the north side of Midway, they're going to expand the turning lane that was questioned from the fellow who owns a business at the most western end of Scenic Drive, and he was concerned about his trucks traversing that because, again, Midway will be vacated. So there's a commitment on that in terms of expanding the turning lane area there. So that's going to enhance the area as well. And I don't even know, I think that would be a challenge to be able to measure something like that in terms of value. To be honest and frank with you, that would be very difficult to do before and after in terms of value of a property, if it's enhanced or if it's not. That would be a challenge to do that. Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Put your hand up again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I haven't really looked for a house in 25, 30 years, but I know homeowners or potential homeowners that would be looking for a house. You're looking at, am I close to, how central am I? Am I close to the highway? Yes. These streets, these people that live there are right around the corner from the highway. Am I close to grocery stores? Yes, they're right across the street. How close are the schools, which is a mile away? So if anything, the home values, they wouldn't be decreasing. They would be increasing with the development that's been happening there at the plaza at Chapel Hill and on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Mr. Neal.
Yeah, I did hear that as one of the concerns from the residents of the impact on their continued encroaching on their property on the housing value, combined with other concerns that were shared. I just think it would be fair to the residents to have some type of metric that we use to understand that impact. I know we've done it. I know there were cases where we've done some things with folks in regards to the CSO project where we addressed their concerns of the impact on their property because of some of the development. I think it just would be fair for these residents. That along with other concerns was all that I had, but I didn't hear anybody ask about the impact on their property value. And because like you said, they knew that was there, but it was, I think, like a field away from them at the time. And now it's encroached closer to their property, which has increased the impact of the dust and the noise and everything else. I just think it would be fair to the residents. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Very good. We have none. We've already voted. Let's move on to the balance of the agenda, of which, short of any concerns or questions, we're going to, except for 15. Ms. Wilms made sure that I didn't forget that one. 15 is the expanding the existing downtown or outdoor refreshment area within the city of Akron. This is the DORA that we've been, we had a presentation over a month ago on this, I do believe. We discussed it last week in committee that we're going to be asking for a vote today. And this does establish ensure public health and safety This is highly regulated by the state of Ohio, and we have, I believe, checked all the boxes whenever it comes to complying with that federal, I'm sorry, state rules that exist out there. And the one thing, is that, with the improvements that we've had in downtown, on Main Street specifically, we need to be, it seems as though, I'm sure we're already doing that, and that's expanding these restaurants so that they can use that sidewalk area, and I guess this could be part of that, and it's going to be highly regular, or watched, if you will, by our APD. So, Ms. Williams, go ahead if you have any comments.
Because of COVID, the downtown outdoor refreshment areas that the state of Ohio has offered doubled. They were originally max 320 acres. They're now 640 acres. We were very conservative on our first attempt. The state law does require us to come back regardless every 5 years to have this body look at this. We're coming back a little earlier, about 24 months, saying, we've tried it. It's been very successful. We'd like to expand it. At this point, we're just shy of 20 acres, and we're looking to go just shy of 150 acres. We are looking to expand it exponentially to pretty much encompass everything that would consider downtown, plus the marry up with the north side area. My personal experience with it, it has been wonderful. It is too small. We have had a wonderful event, the Akron Pride Festival. We outgrew Hardesty Park. We are now downtown. We are going to stay downtown. For the festival to grow and be productive, we definitely are asking for this to be part of that. We have a couple other festivals that are actually preceding us, so the sooner we can get this to the state for approval and finalization, we can actually all start taking advantage of it. Not only the festivals, but all the downtown businesses, the restaurants, the bars, everywhere that we're looking to expand with the wonderful remodel that we've had on Main Street. I appreciate your time, and if anybody has any questions, I definitely would take any of those.
Thank you, thank you. Any questions or concerns? I'd like to entertain a motion that we, favorable recommendation. Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. The ayes have it. We'll now move on to the balance of the agenda, of which I'm going to recommend time, again, short of any questions or concerns. And we'll move on to the new list of legislation. Okay. First item is in planning, and that's under new legislation, item 3, ordinance authorizing conditional use to place an electronic outdoor advertising display at 550 Dan Street. That's to be scheduled for a public hearing. All those in favor of a public hearing, say aye. Aye. Okay, we'll do that. The next item is number 4, which is a resolution accepting the honorary designation at the corner of Frederick Boulevard and Copley Road as Ophelia Averett Lane, declaring an emergency. President Somerville.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. This piece, very well deserved. We're talking about Mrs. Ophelia Averett and just dedicating that corner right there at Frederick Boulevard and Copley Road. She has been a long time business owner. Her business sits right there on that corner. We also know that she was president of NAACP for, I think it's about 21 years. She has had so much passion for civil rights and justice. Anybody knows whenever you could pick up the phone to call Mrs. Averett on anything, she would be right there. And she's still working and doing this work that has been so important to the community. So been working with Mrs. Ophelia Averett. I think this is really important for her to be able to see her work honored in a sense and see herself celebrated so she can be a part of her very own celebration. So I am just hoping that council will support just dedicating that corner and naming it Ophelia Averett Lane, just for all that she has done to make the city of Akron a better place. And at this time, I want to also defer to Councilman Neal, who is the 4th Ward council person there where Mrs. Averett's business is.
Mr. Neal?
Thank Just for the echo the comments, it is nice to be able to get someone that hoses why they can smell it. But the one comment I do want to make in regards to Mrs. Avery is that there's been sacrifices that she has made on behalf of the community that I'm greatly appreciative of. And I'm hoping that we can further expand on this out of her. And just to let you know what I mean, Ms. Avery owns a very important piece of real estate in the Copley Road Business District. And I know for a fact, dollar stores have approached her to buy that corner. But she understands how valuable that is. So foregoing her own personal financial benefit, she has, been steadfast on that corner for, man, I don't know, maybe, I don't want to say, I know it's been looking like this. I've been back home for 35 years, so she's been there that long plus. And that means a lot, especially in a business district where commercial real estate is at a premium. So not only her sacrifice in serving others, but even foregoing personal gain, I'm truly thankful for her and what she does for the community. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't know how Ophelia Everett does this, but it seems as though she gets younger and younger every year. Am I right? I mean, it seems that way. But yeah, she joined the NAACP when she was 3 years old. Literally, it's in the bio. But I've always valued my time with her whenever we were able to talk about issues and about things, and she's always given me great advice, and her work is really unmatched in terms of what she's done over the decades long, and just appreciate all the fine work she's done. Is there any other comments or questions from anyone? Ms. Mosley?
Thank you. And thank you, Council President Somerville, for bringing this in. Ms. Everett has been a pillar in our community for such a long time, and she has never changed. She always greets you with a smile, and I always tease her. She goes, "Hello, darling." I think I've mastered it. And I'm hoping that this evening that we can bring this in as mayor and council as a whole, because she is so deserving of this honor. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes, Ms. Baylor?
Yes, I can let this opportunity pass me by regarding Ms. Ophelia. She is a selfless person, and just like Russ was communicating, Councilman Russ, I'm sorry, she, at her own sacrifice, she will help anybody that comes to her with any problem or concern. She will get involved. It doesn't matter who you are, what the problem is, she will advocate on your behalf. She is so community. I mean, she is the most community-oriented person I've ever really met in my life. For over these many years, she's been very consistent and always, welcoming people with open arms, never turning anyone away. So I definitely agree with this initiative, and like Russ said, maybe even some other ways too. After this is done, we can honor her as well. So thank you, Council President Somerville, for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? I'll go back to the primary sponsor. President Somerville, would you like this passed this evening, or time, or?
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can pass it this evening, and hoping that it will pass with mayor and council as a whole.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a recommendation for suspension of the rules with the favorable report? Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. There's a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it. Very good. And I do believe that concludes our agenda. With that, the Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council is adjourned. Thanks.
Our next committee of the day is the Rules Committee meeting. Those committee members are Freeman, Fusco, Amobian, Connor, and Malik. We do not have a quorum yet, so we'll give the members a moment to connect to video. Mr. Chair, you do have a quorum if you'd like to get started. If you'd like to give the other two members a moment to join, that's fine as well.
Do we have a quorum?
We do.
Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed then. You let me know when we're ready.
Ready when you are.
Okay, very good. I'd like to call the Rules Committee meeting to order. And if we could please, Ms. Bibiano, and roll call.
Freeman.
Present.
Fusco.
Aye.
Amobian. Connor. And Malik. We have all members present except for Amobian and Malik.
All right, thank you. And if I could have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting, please.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. All right. We have one item coming before us today, and this is the resolution approving and confirming the appointment by Mayor Horgan of Casey Miller as a member of the Akron Civil Rights Commission and declaring an emergency. Who'll be addressing us, please?
Well, hello, Chair. This is Gertrude Wilms on behalf of the City of Akron. I appreciate the time. Joining the Akron Civil Rights Commission with vote of this council is Casey Miller. Casey Miller actually was mentored by one of your members. Sharon Connor brought him to our attention, and Casey comes to us as an advocate for ADA compliance in the city of Akron. I would remind the members of this body that with Casey's lived experience, the types of complaints that the Civil Rights Commission hears are housing, employment, and public accommodations. I think we can all appreciate the fact somebody with a lived experience would have an awful lot to bring, hearing those type of complaints, weighing in on those complaints, and offering resolutions on behalf of the citizens of Akron. I would absolutely defer to Councilwoman Connor, with your permission, sir, to weigh in on this candidate as well.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilms. I've had the pleasure of knowing Casey a number of years. He was a student while I worked at Miller South. He's overcome a great amount of adversity, and he's out there changing the world. We look forward to him laying that groundwork for future people with disabilities so that they may overcome those barriers also. I think he'll be a great addition to the Rights Commission, and I thank the mayor and his staff for making that happen.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from other council members or committee members? All right. If not, do I have a motion to...
Mr. Chair, I can see that Councilwoman Holland has her hand raised.
Oh, okay, very good. Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Holland. Please proceed.
No problem, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to welcome Casey Miller and just say that that I think that particularly ADA issues and further expansion of ADA accessibility and compliance is one of the most pressing issues on our city right now. I'm delighted to hear Councilwoman's wholehearted endorsement of Casey Miller, and excited to welcome another member to the Akron Civil Rights Commission, which I think is an extraordinary body capable of bringing about great positive change for our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? I don't want to miss anyone. Ms. Bibiano, am I missing anything here?
Suspension of the rules and favorable report.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
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 All right. And with that, we will see that that is passed out this evening. Congratulations to Casey Miller, and look forward to the work there on the Akron Civil Rights Commission. And if we have nothing else to come before us, we are adjourned at 2:06 p.m.
Our next committee of the day will be the Public Service Committee. Those committee members are Mosley, Kamer, Holland, Lombardo, and McKittrick. Looks like we do have all members present whenever you're ready, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. If I could get a motion for our previous meeting minutes, a motion and approval.
Motion to approve. Yep. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We have an old piece still on here. I'll take time for one more week on this, but then I'm going to bring it for next week. Only person I've really heard from was Councilwoman Holland. We spoke briefly about it. I did hear from Councilman Kamer. He did ask to have his name added to this. Other than that, I haven't heard from anyone. Let me back up. Councilman Freeman did ask me about it last Monday after council. So if there's any questions or concerns, if you could please get those to me. I would like to bring this forward next week. So continue time until next week. Yeah, Ms. Holland?
Madam Chair, excuse me, please. I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you speak into your microphone, please?
Can you hear me now?
Better.
Okay, so I was saying that I'm going to bring this forward next week. I mentioned that I did speak with you briefly about it, but Councilman Kamer was the only one who really responded, and it was to have his name added as a co-sponsor. So if there's any other questions, again, Councilman Freeman did talk to me briefly on Monday on the way out. If there's any questions, please get them to me before next Monday, because I do want to move forward with this next Monday.
Madam Chair, just a quick note, we don't meet next Monday. City offices are closed.
Really? What's Monday? Okay, well, that's even better. The Monday after. You have an extra week to think about it. So this is the littering ordinance, just so you all know. All right. So any other questions about that before we move on? Okay. All righty. We have a few pieces before us this afternoon. The first one is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into an agreement or agreements and/or legislation with the Ohio Director of Transportation for certain improvements in the city of Akron on State Route 241, State Route 764, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lettle.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. This first piece is just allowing us to sign an agreement, participation agreement between us and ODOT to do these improvements. It's about 4.5 miles of resurfacing in the Firestone Park, going into Firestone Park to Ellett. So it's Wilbeth Road from the Route 77 up to Arlington, and then it's Triplet from Arlington down to Cyberlane, and then it's parts of George Washington. So we have now got the final cost and estimates. This will be a project that ODOT will bid, they will inspect, This just allows us to work and allow them to work here in the city of Akron.
Okay, all righty. Any questions from committee members? Any question from council members? What would be your pleasure?
The consent's fine.
Okay, can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Our next piece is a resolution declaring it necessary to improve East Wilbeth Road between the termini of Interstate 77 and South Arlington Street, Triplet Boulevard, between the termini of South Arlington Street and South Cyberlink Street, Masson Road between the termini of Oaks Drive, East Waterloo Road, and George Washington Boulevard, between the termini of East Waterloo Road and Triplet Boulevard, by resurfacing and declaring an emergency. Mr. Little.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of committee. This is the same project. This is the piece that allows us to levy the special assessments, so this will start the process. All the owners in this corridor will get they will get a notice, and once they get the notice, they'll have time to object. At that point, we will have a hearing. If there are some that object, after the hearing, we'll have one final piece approving the Assessment Equalization Board for approval to move this project forward. This also could be put on consent. We have talked to ODOT. This project won't start probably till September, and then it will move into next year, weather providing. So the way their schedule's been going, and with contractors, we look for it to be mostly done next spring. So consent is fine. If we do get some done this year, our priority will be, and Councilman Kamer, I think, can agree with this, will be the Wilbeth Road from 77 up to Arlington, because it's in pretty tough shape. So
Okay.
with that, like I said, consent will be fine.
Okay. Any questions from committee members? Any questions from council members? Okay, can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I get a roll call, Sarah?
Sure. Mosley?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Next piece is the ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the replacement of the gym HVAC system at Joy Park Community Center and declaring an emergency. Mr. Luttle?
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of committee. Over at Joy Park, we have two systems. They're both very old, and what we call is a split system. So they have an outside unit, then they have the inside air handler or furnace. Both of those furnaces, air handlers, are above the ceiling, which makes the service very difficult to do, but that was the way it was designed. We're proposing to bid this out as one unit, and it's going to be pretty much the same thing we did over at Summit Lake last year, where we air conditioned the gym and the rest of the community center with one unit. The unit will sit outside. It will be protected from the elements. It also will be fenced in just to protect the unit also. So we're replacing two units with one. Obviously, the one unit's going to service the whole facility. Unfortunately, with it being so warm, that is one of our cooling centers, which we won't be able to use this week because both units are not working. So I would respectfully ask to suspend the rules on this one so we can get this project going.
Okay. I see on here you're using ARPA dollars for it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, any questions from committee members? Any questions from council members? Seeing none, if I could get a motion for suspension of the rules?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Next piece is the ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets between certain termini, 2021 Phase 1 Arterial Collector Program, by resurfacing such streets with asphaltic concrete 402/404 and declaring an emergency. This is a substitute offer.
Yes, last week we had these 4 pieces, and this council passed. Well, if I'm sure you all recall when we passed the charter amendment in 2020, Section 38, records and publications. We do not have to publicize these type of things in the newspaper anymore. On our website suffices. So this is basically a cleanup of that legislation that we've had in there last week. So all 4 of these are substitutes, and that's basically what the change is the publication of the ordinances and others.
Okay, all righty. Any questions from any committee members? Council members?
Consent's fine.
Okay, can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, ayes have it. Next piece is also a substitution. Ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets between certain termini 2021 Phase 1 partial depth pavement replacement program by repaving such streets with asphaltic concrete 402/404 and declaring an emergency. Mr. Little?
That is the same explanation, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any questions from committee members, council members? Can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, ayes have it. Our next piece is an ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets between the termini of Phase 1 residential resurfacing program and resurfacing such streets with asphaltic concrete 402/404 and declaring an emergency. Mr. Little?
This is a substitute also, ma'am, from Section 38, so
Okay.
consent would be fine.
Okay. Again, any questions from committee or council members? Seeing none, can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Our last piece is an ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets between certain termini 2021 Phase 1 unimproved street resurfacing program by treating the surface thereof with substances designed to preserve the surface and declaring an emergency. Mr. Little?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's the same explanation as the previous 3.
Okay.
Consent would be fine.
Okay. Any questions from committee or council members? Seeing none, can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. We have nothing else coming before us, so we are adjourned.
Our next committee of the day is the Public Safety Committee. Those committee members are Kamer, Mosley, Lombardo, Malik, and McKittrick. We do have all members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I'll move forward and call the public safety meeting order, please. Can I get approval of last week's minutes, please? We did host a meeting. I appreciate that.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Before we move into our new list of items, we do have one. I'm just asking the committee we can continue taking time. It's the firework legislation, or we can make a move on it today for a vote. It's up to the committee, or we can continue time. We have several sponsors with us.
Councilman Kamer, I'd like to make a motion for suspension of rules.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Mosley. I have a motion to suspend the rules. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
So, Mr. Chair, this is for a favorable report, just to be clear,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
motion for suspension of rules with a favorable report.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Can we do a roll call?
Yes. Kamer,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Sarah. Can you list the co-sponsors and the sponsor to that legislation real quick before I move forward?
Sure, give me just one moment. That was offered by Kamer, McKittrick, Holland, and Mosley.
All right, thank you, Sarah. All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on to our new list, we have a ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent without the formality of advertising for bids to enter into an agreement or agreements for the purchase of additional FARO 360-degree 3D laser scanner and related equipment and warranties for the use by the Akron Police Department and declare an emergency. And I do see we have our Captain McCosey with us today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. This is for a laser scanner. These are a unique scanner that allows us to set up at a crime scene, whether it's a homicide scene or even a traffic crash, a serious motor vehicle crash, and it actually takes a 3D photo of the scene. It allows us to reconstruct the scene and also to identify evidence that we may not even see at first. So it's a key part of processing our crime scenes and processing major vehicle crashes. And that's really the reason why we're here today, is because we found that it's so good at processing those crash scenes that our traffic unit has begun to use them on all fatal crashes, serious injury crashes, and so we only have one. And having that available all the time is difficult. So between the crime scenes and the traffic crashes, we actually have occasion where we've had to wait a while for that piece of equipment to get to the next scene. So we'd like to get another one. This is the exact same scanner as what we have, so there'll be less of a curve in terms of training people. Everyone knows how to use the piece of equipment, and we already have a relationship with the company, so we understand their technology and how to use it. So.
All right, thank you, Captain. I'll take any questions or comments. I do see all my committee members in council chambers. Do we have any questions or comments? No? All right, how about anybody that's online with us? Sarah, am I missing anything?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. What are the, Captain McCosey, what are your wishes on this?
We would ask to suspend the rules on this one so we can get this going as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. Is there a recommendation?
Motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. We'll suspend the rules. Moving on to our next piece, number 14. Ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of advertising for bids with Fallsway Equipment Company for the purchase of supplies, repair parts, and equipment necessary to outfit new Akron Police Department vehicles for the 2022 and declare an emergency. Captain?
Yes, sir. In this particular piece, we're asking for Fallsway to be essentially added to the no-bid list. They have been on that list for several years, and they not only supply equipment and repair parts in upfitting for the fire department and other departments, they also do so for us. We noted that we missed that one, so we wanted to add that on. The equipment that Fallsway provides is critical to building cruisers, and it's impractical to use someone else. We actually get a very good rate on all their parts as well. Most are actually below state contract bids, so we are asking to make them part of the no bid.
All right, thank you, Captain. Any questions or comments, committee members? I don't see anything. Anybody online with us? I don't see anybody. Committee?
Motion for suspension of rules.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent without the formality of advertising for bids to enter into contract or contracts with Summit County for the use of its firing range by the City of Akron Police Department and declaring emergency. Captain?
All right. Our current Summit County contract, our range contract, has expired as of the end of last year, so this is a renewal of sorts. We actually rewrote the contract this time to make it a 5-year term. There's not an actual commitment on the exact amount of dollars on this. We pay as we go, but it does set the terms for payment. It sets the terms for reserving times at the range, et cetera, and it also sets our rates. So we would like to enter into this 5-year agreement. It will expedite our ability to pay our bills and pay them on time, and set us up with the range there in Summit County to satisfy the need.
Thank you, Captain. Any questions or comments, committee members? All right, anybody that's online with us? All right. What's the recommendation, committee?
Motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Anybody opposed? All right. Thank you, Captain. I appreciate your time. We have one more piece in front of us. It's a resolution offered by several members of council, President Somerville, Vice President Fusco, Councilman McKittrick, Councilwoman Baylor, Councilwoman Connor, Councilwoman Howland, Councilman Lombardo, Councilman McKittrick. It's a resolution expressing support of the Federal Extreme Risk Protection Act, otherwise known as House Bill 2377, a red flag bill that would allow families, police, and others to ask federal courts to order the removal of firearms from people at extreme risk of harming themselves or others that would raise the minimum age to buy semi-automatic firearms and declare an emergency. I'm not sure what sponsor would like to speak on this. I see Councilman Fusco's hand up. Councilman, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. I think in the last 20 years, this is the first time a lot of us has been around for a while can be hopeful that something may be done. Something may be done, hopefully, by the federal government. You know, in the past 20 years or so, what we've seen, it seems as though we've passed like, I think 20 or 25, I know the clerk had sent me some information about everything we've passed, and Tara Samples, she has introduced legislation for gun buybacks. We have had resolution after resolution. It seems as though, you know, asking the federal government to do something and kind of condemning the state of Ohio for what they've done. But this is the best news, and it's moving so quickly right now that the House of Representatives passed, I believe it's 2377, and now it's on to the Senate. And woke up this morning to find out that there was, I guess, a press release or what have you that has 10 Republicans, including Ohio's Rob Portman, and 10 Democrats. Why? That's a big deal, very big deal, because Portman was a hard no on everything when it comes to gun regulation of any whatsoever, and he signed on. He's going to be part of this negotiation. It gives us hope that something is going to be done, and it's been a long run, not only for the mass shootings that we've seen, but also, you know, we see it all the time in our city where there's one or two or three, you know, that died at the hands of guns. But this is great news that something is happening at the federal level. I guess there's agreement in principle on some of the items. The 21-year-old purchasing is part of this. Grants, we could, you know, cross our fingers, but continue the pressure. And that's after last week's passage of the resolution. Thank you for all your support, Council. But, you know, I was kind of debating, do we have yes, we do. We have to have another resolution. We have to keep pushing and pushing as we have for the last 20 years or so. The red flag rules, for state grants for states. I don't know if, cross our fingers for that. Don't hold our breath, though. Let's be hopeful. The boyfriend loophole, I guess, is being talked about, and that's where, if there's any indication of a spouse that may be going out purchasing a gun, so they're working on that. This is very good. Possibly a crackdown on straw purchasers. That's individuals who buy for others, and also illegal dealers, which Lord knows are out there. And increase healthcare funding possibly as well, which is just as important, really, if you think about it. So let's all remain hopeful. Let's support our senators on this one, and let's hope for the best, and hopefully it's going to be done in a timely fashion. And if I didn't reach out to everybody, I apologize. It's just been a crazy time, but anyone wants their names on this, please, by all means, put your name on. Thank you so much for all your support in the past, and let's pray this gets done soon by the Senate.
Anyone else have any comments or words? I see Councilman Malik, Councilwoman Mosley. I'll go to Councilman Malik first.
Thank you. Just want to express my agreement with my colleague, Mr. Fusco. Hopeful that there will be change at the federal level, while acknowledging that there's still a lot to do. I just want to confirm that I'd like to be a co-sponsor as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Chairman Kamer. I would like my name added to this legislation this resolution, and hopefully we'll get to the point where we just ban assault weapons. That's the hope. So, but I thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I see Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would absolutely join everything that Councilman Fusco had to say, and I am pleased and proud to join as a sponsor of this legislation. This is a turning point. This is a critical crossroads, and I think that we need to give some credit and recognition to the many letter writers, the groups like Moms Demand Action, Every Town for Gun Control. This is a really big moment where bipartisan effort and sentiment and our shared deep control of our partisan beliefs and our deep shared concern about our children is going to carry the day towards something that makes sense. Almost without exception, prior to these horrible mass shootings, there have been indications that the shooter was going to do what the shooter did. And red flag laws help. They make a difference. 19 states in the United States have red flag laws of some form. And if this bipartisan supported legislation can pass the Senate, and it looks good, but if this can happen, what will happen is that there will be support provided for the states that already have red flag laws, and there will be support across the nation for the idea that we can stop these things. We can try to stop them before they happen. I am so proud of my friends and family members, all the community members who have written letters, who have really worn their hearts on their sleeves to stop this insanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Freeman.
Yes, if it's all right with the individuals that brought this forth, I'd like my name added as well. I'd really like to see something like this because I think it deals with, all of us would agree, the issue of the heart of the person holding the gun, and that's what we have to look at is the individual and restricting access to firearms to folks who, obviously have displayed a mental state should not permit them to handle a firearm. So if I could have my name added, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Anything else? Okay. Anybody else in council chambers?
I'd like to make a motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. That's it for our legislation, but before we adjourn, I did invite our youth violence coordinator, Danica Buckley, to today's meeting. Sarah, is he in council chambers?
Yes, he is here.
Oh, sure, thanks. Invite him up to one of the seats, please. And wanted him to introduce himself and briefly speak to us. And hopefully we can ask a couple questions if we do, but just remember we do have other committees after this committee. So, Danica, welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. So I'll share a little bit about myself and about my 3 months. Start up. Thanks for having me. And
I'm so sorry to interrupt again. If you could pull that microphone up a little bit closer, it'll make it easier for them to be able to hear you. Thank you.
Is that better? Yes. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about myself, and then I'll transition and talk a little bit about what I've been doing these past 3 months in my role. But a little bit about myself. I'm an Akron native, born in North Hill. I went to college in Canton at Malone University. And graduating from college, I started my career with the YMCA. I also have had experience working as a manager of the Southeast Community Center in Canton, Ohio, Minority Behavioral Health Group as a case manager at Bookdale High School. I served as a site manager for Access Point Community Health Center. And most recently, before taking this role, I was with the United Way of Summit in Medina County. I'm a father of 4. I currently coach football at East High School, and I'm also co-founder of the Hoop for Coop initiatives. So a little bit about myself. In these past 3 months, going back, I guess, I was also a part of the Racial Equity Social Justice Task Force. And one of the things that we talked about was how in 2019, the city of Akron received a strategic plan around youth violence prevention. So the Racial Equity Social Justice Task Force, we all were in agreement that it would be awesome for the city to hire a full-time liaison to kind of serve between the mayor's office, those key stakeholders in the community, and the grassroots organizations in our community. So one of the things that I'm interested in doing around the racial equity social justice work is to revise the strategic plan a little bit. Nothing in the strategic plan had anything around COVID. And also, I think our nation was faced with looking ourselves in the mirror with the George Floyd incident. So I think that it's important to kind of highlight those areas and also just kind of revise the strategic plan and allow some of those organizations who are not in the conversation to be a part of it. So that's one of the focus areas that I've been doing, just working in that racial equity space. The second area is the creating of a youth community opportunity committee. So this role definitely is like a lot task to it. So it's really one of them roles where I have to be strategic and connecting with the community. So I've had conversations with Akron Public Schools, specifically around that out of school time, after school programming, and also talking in the lenses of equity. I've had meetings with Summit County Public Health, the United Way of Summit in Medina County, Jobs for Ohio Graduates, Juvenile Courts, Summit Education Initiative, and then my passion is youth athletics, being a YMCA guy and also being a student athlete. So working with our school athletics to try to create how can we serve our community around reducing youth violence. So those are some of the areas that some of the organizations that I've connected with in my 3 months. I'm also really involved with the ARPA Violence Intervention Prevention. We had 11 organizations that was funded in like quote unquote round 1. Round 2, we added an additional 4 organizations. So just working with those individuals to try to learn more about what exactly they're going to do to help us in reducing youth violence, but also just trying to find out where do I fit at as it relates to what do they need from the city. So that's taken up a lot of time. We are going to have all of our organizations go through training that's going to be facilitated through Alchemy. So we're working on finalizing that in the next upcoming months. And then also with the round 2 of grantees, there were a few organizations who was not funded. So just working with those organizations to make them aware of what things they could potentially do in October that will allow them to reapply, which is going to be in round 3. So that's another focus area, the ARPA violence prevention funds. And then the last thing I will highlight is the focus area of National Night Out. So over the last few weeks, I've met with previous year's organizers, the grantees from our ARPA violence intervention prevention, and a few different council members to kind of just learn more about what we've done in the past, but also learn more about what they are interested in doing this year. So we had our first meeting 2 weeks ago with all of the organizers, and one of the things that I allowed the organizers and council members and ARPA grantees to do was just give me 1 or 2 ideas around what I can do, what we can do to help our community in addressing our violence and youth violence and everything. So my goal is by the end of this week to follow up with those organizers, council members, to have a conversation around the cards that they provided, and then talk about next steps with National Night Out, which is going to be on August the 4th this year. So I think that's it. That's all I have to present today.
All right, thank you, Janico, I appreciate it. Committee members, do you have any questions or comments? Okay, the Councilman Malik.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Buckley Knight. I appreciate the presentation and appreciate all of your work and your engagement thus far. Really glad that we have this additional capacity that you bring to the table and your expertise. As you shared, and I just want to share with the committee, I think that as we move forward, it would be really helpful if we pick specific objectives and metrics that we're trying to achieve from the Youth Violence Strategic Plan so that we know what we're trying to achieve with that ARPA money. Because I think that it's great that we are working to invest in some of these organizations, but I think we want to know how those pieces are fitting into an overall goal that we're hoping to achieve with these funds. Thank you.
Thanks for that information.
Thank you, Councilman. Anything else?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say Danico's done a wonderful job. I think in the 90 days he's been in office, we've run into each other at least 10 times at different meetings and events, and it's nice to see him take the reign and start running and working with everyone. It's a great asset, and it's a great help for us in the neighborhoods to have him as our liaison.
Thanks for those kind words.
Thank you. Anything else? Anybody else? Sarah, am I missing anyone?
I don't see any hands raised here in chambers, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming down and introducing yourself. I'm sure I'll be in touch with you in regards to some National Night Out stuff. So thank you for your help.
Thanks for having me.
Go ahead. With that, public safety is adjourned. Thanks.
Our next committee of the day is the Health and Social Services Committee. Those committee members are Amobian, Freeman, Baylor, Neal, and Holland. I know we have some folks presenting today. If you're here to present, you want to come up to a microphone. Whenever you're ready to get started, Madam Chair, you can call your meeting to order. You do have all members present.
Okay. Good afternoon. Can you hear me here?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'd certainly like to call the Health and Social Services Committee to order. Roll call, Sarah, just for...
Sure. Amobian?
Please.
Amobian?
Present.
Freeman.
Present.
Baylor.
Here.
Neal.
Here.
Holland.
Here.
All committee members are present.
Oh, boy.
And do not believe we have minutes to address. And then I have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting we had, please, to accept the minutes from our previous. So moved. Second, and a second. So moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. I'd like to turn it over to Reverend, Dr. Stern. I've given you your title. I know you have many, but I just added you to the clergy. Anyway, I'd turn it over to Dr. Stern, please, and his committee. I've had the good fortune of attending many of their meetings, and they have shared much good information with the public, and they're moving forward. So thank you for all your hard work, and I will turn it over to Dr. Stern.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
If you could press that button till that light comes on.
There we go.
Thank you. And if you could speak as close as you can to the microphone, that'll make it a little easier for them to hear. Thank you.
It's a great pleasure to have a chance to address this committee. It's been a while since we were here. We were here the last time to almost give you the results of our first community assessment. And then we had the wonderful challenge of a year and a half of COVID that really made life beyond challenging. But what we have to bring to you today is an important document which I think many of you have already seen, which is the Age-Friendly Akron Strategic Plan. And let me just mention that I'm here with the co-chair of Age-Friendly Akron, Susan Sigmund.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you again.
And there are a number of the commission members here as well today to support our effort. The reason we're here today is because we are at a point where we are about ready to submit the draft of the Age-Friendly Akron Plan, which includes 47 recommendations. I'm going to, in a moment, turn this over to my co-chair, Susan Sigmund, to kind of run us through a handout that we have, and then we can be happy to address specific items within the plan. Let me just give you a little background on that. This is part of an international movement to make cities and communities more friendly to older adults, and that this became a United Nations project, and then in the United States it was then taken over by AARP, but I don't want to encroach on Susan's area. So let me just say that the whole reason for this is to look at how to improve in every way our communities so that we can be a more fulfilling environment for people of all ages, but at the same time addressing both what I call the welderly, older adults, as well as elderly, older adults who have specific health and other needs. So Susan, why don't you take over, and then we'll...
All right. I'm happy to present this report, and Councilman Malik, I really appreciate your previous comment in regards to the importance of the identification of proposed outcomes and metrics, and because I know we've done a year of needs assessment, we've then done another year of community engagement to come up with these strategic initiatives, excuse me, these 47 action steps. And I agree that after a while it can become a lot of words, but it really is critical that we hold ourselves accountable, build on the work that we've done, and hold ourselves accountable so that we do recognize that we are making progress. And I will be happy to come back and be able to prove that progress in the coming months and years. As I mentioned, just to give a little background, obviously we're here today to talk about Age-Friendly Akron. I will tell you that about 9 months after Mayor Horgan signed that application, we were approached by Age Friendly Summit. Summit County approached us, and so we are also doing that work kind of on a parallel track, and I'm happy to say that both initiatives are aligning up very well. Although Akron is very unique and has unique expectations and things that is important, there are a lot of things that overlap with the county that we'll be able to really align very well. And I would be remiss if I didn't express my gratitude to Gert Wilms and the leadership at the County Executive's Office to make sure that we are working in concert together. That's been very helpful, and their support is very much appreciated. That being said, we used a company or a group to help us make sense of the information we were gathering in regards to the needs assessment. And we did a lot of community engagement. We held public forums. We sent out 5,000 postcards. We had listening areas in the library and so on. We really, even though the pandemic was not our friend, we really did endeavor to reach out and really make sure that we were hearing from everyone about what is important, what does age-friendly mean to you. And in this work, I've come to believe that I don't want to create an us versus them kind of mentality, those old people and, the age wave is coming and oh my gosh, this silver tsunami is coming. That is wrong-headed, and I want to ban that type of thinking as best I can with this initiative. It's us, it's all of us. What's good for an older adult that is perhaps in a wheelchair or in a walker is good for a family that's pushing a stroller. And so it's really critical that we do start to think about what are those, what important initiatives there are for older adults, and what is it that's going to make our community livable, not just them. So thanks for letting me get on that soapbox for a little bit. The strategic plan that I believe you all received, and I have hard copies if anyone needs one, lists out 47 action steps. Thanks, Gert. 47 action steps that we are going to tackle. Of those 47 action steps, there are 12 that overlap with the county. And so we are going to be holding our next, or I should say our inaugural joint meeting in a couple weeks, where we are going to line up, and when I say joint, I'm saying the city and the county. We're going to look at, how we're going to move these initiatives forward. If you can look at the report, you see that it's broken down into themes. There are themes like communication, access, those kinds of broad topics, and then different action steps can fall under those themes. I think that what makes sense is that we will be we will get organized by themes and let those working committees really start to dig in and work on those action steps that's been identified in that report. What am I missing, Dr. Stearns?
Well, I think for us to read with enthusiasm 47 recommendations is not the answer today. We know that. But if you look at the handout and look at number 5, I think you will see that these are among the key priorities. And these are ones that are really important to the city as well as to the county as a whole. I want to call especially attention to Educate and Empower. One of the things that has still been very important has been the whole issue of the digital divide. One of the things that we learned is, yes, Akron is actually very well connected in some respects. We are somewhere around 70-something% of people have access to Wi-Fi. But the thing that's of concern to us is the people who don't have access to Wi-Fi. And if you remember, when people had to register for their vaccinations, one of the major mechanisms was through computers. And so this is an example of some of the people in greatest need may not have access to this communication loop. And one of the ways of dealing with that, we've had some special pilot programs that the area agency has done in terms of training. In my own research, we've been training older adults for a decade to use smartphones and other things, but one of the major things is the digital divide issue. And then another one is removing barriers. We're suggesting that, and this is tied also to the issues of home modification and home improvement, we want to develop a mechanism or a seal of approval so that when people are engaging in making these revisions to their homes, they can be really assured that they have contractors that will give them a fair price and also provide the work in the way it should be done. And under removing barriers, I can think if you see here, transportation is a very important one. The key to all services really pretty much within the city and in the county depends on our special transportation approaches. And I want to also point out that our group met with the mayor and staff about 3 weeks ago, and that we looked at these same issues, and transportation was very high in that discussion as well. And as you know, Metro is in its current planning process, so we want to be sure that all of us are in support of making transportation a top priority. Also, communication, and I really think the last two topics of enhanced livability and improving community services is really Susan's bailiwick, and I'll let her address those two areas, if not more.
Thank you, Dr. Stearns. Yes, enhanced livability. We heard loud and clear through our needs assessment that people want to remain in their homes. However humble it may be, people want to remain in their homes. The respondents in Akron answered that at a 94% rate. That is higher than even the national rate. I know that that's not really perhaps a shocking statistic, but I think it's also something that we as leaders need to pay attention to. What does it take to assist people to remain in their homes? Is there home modification programs? Do folks have access to health services and so on? So remaining in the home is really critical, even if you think about home delivered meals and housekeeping services. Those types of services really become critical in allowing people to remain in their homes. And then, going on then with improved community services, there's a lot of discussion about walkability in our communities, and of course that can encompass sidewalks and so on. People feel that sense of connectiveness, that sense of neighborhood when they can get out and chat. And again, I know that this isn't perhaps rocket science, but it's true. And the more we can pay attention to those kinds of things, the better off our community is going to be. I will say that in deference to this council, this plan that you're looking at is still considered draft because we certainly wanted to give you all the respect to review it, and if you see additional things that need to be added, or if you want some wording tweaked, please let us know before we actually finalize this report. But we did want to take this opportunity to present it to you so that you would have a good understanding of what our age-friendly initiative is all about.
So we're operating on the principle that it can't be a good idea unless I'm involved. So we want your involvement in this because this is a 5-year project. In reality, we've already in the second year, but the next 3 years are very important. And I'm also aware that you have many other initiatives going on simultaneously, and you've had other planning committees. But isn't it interesting how a number of them have aligned on the importance of safety in our community, have aligned in importance of keeping our housing stock in good shape? And isn't it important that we see again how important it is that we make our city have high levels of mobility and interaction? So I think I'd like to not to talk to you, but have you talk to us in terms of either giving us additional guidance, and also, at the very least, we don't want to do anything that that you feel is in a wrong direction. Because how that could happen, I have no idea, but...
I'll just, if I may, just perhaps close our remarks to read our vision. This vision statement was really vetted over and over and over and wordsmithed over and over, and I'm really proud of it, and I want to say it out loud. Akron is a place for all age groups and abilities. It's a place where everyone is empowered, especially older adults, to live life fully and to be active participants within their community.
So, Chair Mobian, we'd be happy to answer any questions or comments.
Yes. On that note, Dr. Stern and your committee, Susan, and all of the ones that are present, and please, I want you to acknowledge all of them before we end our discussion today. But as I was reading through your strategic plan, and I wanted to start with the vision that you just read, Susan, because I think that is so critically important. I know Dr. Stern said that we have a lot of important issues, but there's no issue, I think, that's more important than ensuring that the older adults in our community feel welcome, feel respected, and know that we appreciate all of their contributions, and we want to ensure that they benefit from all the work that they've done, because what you see in Akron is part of what the foundation that they laid with all the work that they've done over the years. We certainly want them to age in place, and we want them to benefit from all. We talk about all the resources we have, and we are really blessed in Summit County to have an abundance of resources, particularly social service resources, health care resources, transportation. I mean, you can list all of them, and we want to make sure that the older adults have access to all of those. And I know you highlighted just a few things, Dr. Stern, when you're talking about transportation, housing, and those for me are really critical, because we know we can look at the economy and see that, okay, we're building all these new homes and apartments and so forth, but many older adults are saying, I want to stay in my own home. I just want to have access to the resources I need to make sure my home is safe, livable, and then I can benefit from getting where I need to go and staying there, because it is terribly expensive to live nowadays. And I think we have all seen the prices of homes and everything else going up. But again, I thank you so much for this work and the information that you shared with us, because it's critical that we pay attention to our seniors, to let them know that Akron is a welcoming community to all, particularly to the older adults that have contributed so much to the resources and the value of life and the quality of life that we're all experiencing and appreciating today. And we want to make sure that as we look at outdoor spaces, and recreational and social services, and all these wonderful things that we can all benefit from, that we think in terms of how are our older adults going to benefit from these, because we want them to come out of their homes and enjoy the community as well. So I'm sure there are lots of hands going up. Sarah, I can't see them. Tell me whose hand is up, and we'll start recognizing people.
Sure. The first I saw was Councilwoman Holland.
Councilwoman Holland, please. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I'm not surprised that you covered many of the points that immediately sprang to my mind, too. A huge thing that I hear almost every day from Ward 1 constituents is the issue around doing something with our aging housing stock, and also the desire among many of our residents to be able to safely and comfortably age in place. I am so happy to see this so prominently included in your report. A great bit of what I understand to be critical to the ability to age in place, if you will, is access to information, as you also pointed out, including by having reliable, affordable broadband access to get to services and resources that are reasonable, affordable, easy to understand. I feel that these things go hand in hand. I guess I'm interested in whether you can actually give us an idea of how often this feedback came to you, this idea of folks wanting to stay in their homes. I know that one of the things that figures into a lot of calculations by families is the affordability piece. When one's home is already paid for and one is either presently in or looking at a fixed income situation, the idea of even, remotely being interested or up for the process of qualifying for a new mortgage, a new something along those lines is probably a little bit daunting. Can you weigh in on the detail of feedback about this idea?
I think what you're raising is really important, because even the steps of just refinancing a mortgage at a more affordable rate is a very lengthy process. I found it personally challenging to go through all of the steps. And that's one of the things about, as part of this process, we would hope to have information and resource people who can give people the information that they need and feel that they can trust when they are dealing with these processes. But I think one of the biggest issues really is making good decisions. And that's one of the things that we can support through either coordination with the informational resources from the Direction Home, or talking to one of their social workers. And we are envisioning age-friendly business certification, which can help with decisions. When you consider that the average cost of assisted living now is close to $6,000 a month, you can do lots of investment in home improvements, include even stair elevators and other things relative to the cost of long-term care within a few months. I don't think people fully realize the value that comes from being able to stay in one's home. But there's also a part of it where if you reach a point where that is no longer a good option, then we should be able to help people transition to either apartments or other types of living that make more sense for their particular situation. And people's situations change. We're just watching inflation have a dramatic impact on people in the last few weeks. Something that people may have felt confident about, but all of a sudden now may feel really up against it a little bit more than they have been. Susan sees this from the social service perspective, so.
Yes, yes, to answer your question as far as the frequency, it's all the time. I know that's not very scientific, but as we as I mentioned earlier, you know, in the needs assessment that was independent needs assessment that was conducted, you know, an overwhelming 94% stated that they are interested in staying in their own homes. And so, you know, that is very compelling. And I think, again, as leaders, that's the direction that we need to take to make sure that we can make that happen. So thank you for that question.
Yeah, and in the assessment that I did with others pre-COVID, we know that there are areas of the city in certain wards that are more challenged than others. And what's interesting, it's not just there isn't a particular ward. There are areas within a number of wards that need special attention. So let's keep that in mind. But it's not also resources, it's also attitude. One of the most important things about this age-friendly approach is changing our way of thinking about how to make our community more universal design oriented in terms of age issues, knowing that we have to set aside a lot of past beliefs regarding aging and create optimal ways of supporting people to live a full life.
Thank you so much. Madam Chair, may I ask one follow-up question?
Yes, go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you. I'm just interested in whether your group had any ideas for solving the broadband problem.
You know, affordable access, and so, you know, I will state that in the height of the pandemic, Direction Home received a grant to distribute, you know, computers, laptops, and, you know, that was great, that was fantastic, but then the next question is, what about connectivity? And so we were able to get a grant that would help people for 1 year. Well, that year is quickly coming upon us, and we are working to find other low-cost, you know, options. I don't know, I think that there's other activities going on within our community to make sure that this access is available. It's not an easily solved problem, though.
Indeed. Thank you so much for your presentation today, for these helpful answers, and for all you do.
Sure, thank you.
Sarah, whose hand is up now? Committee persons first, please.
I do not see any committee members with their hands raised at the moment, but I see that Councilman Fusco has his hand raised.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
Sure,
Mobian.
Ms. Fusco, go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Mobian. Thank you both for all of your hard work. I want to thank also the commission itself.
Yes.
I know Ms. Mobian had mentioned she attends some of the meetings. I've been able to from time to time, but thank you for all your hard work. You guys are doing a great job. I was just curious why, whenever you had mentioned old people and the older people and this and that, you're pointing this way. I don't understand why that would be. I don't understand, but that's okay. Just joking. The hour is very late, and I just had a chance just to skim over this. I'm going to read it in detail, but the one piece, and I know a number of the items that have been identified surrounds loneliness, and I think that's a key element with regards to some of our aging, older society, is the loneliness piece. And so, as mentioned, that was part of a lot of the identifying parameters that you had mentioned that you're looking at. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're so right, and if I looked your way, I apologize for that. But you're absolutely right that loneliness, you know, as I think we all can picture, loneliness can quickly lead to depression, and depression can lead to really bad comorbidities. And so you're absolutely right that if we can, you know, think about loneliness and, you know, when we look at all the themes, you know, it's about communication, it's about connectivity, It's about sidewalks. You know, we've already talked about if people can just get out and talk to their neighbors, what that can do. I would submit that home-delivered meals are much more than a meal. It can be, you know, that can be an opportunity for interaction. So I totally agree with what you're saying, that we really do need to focus on loneliness and what that can really mean to an older adult.
I think another thing that we should remember is the city already, in the past, invested in its recreation centers, and for many years had a very active older adult program. We had a very fine older adult coordinator in Sally Nyberg. We have not had someone like her recently, so one of the first things we could do would be have someone representing the city recreation program to reactivate many of the things we've done in the past.
Yeah. Well, I can only tell you, Dr. Stern, and to your committee that we thank you so very, very much. As I sit and listen to all of you, I think about all the agencies that are providing services to meet many of these needs. You know, the agency where I work, Community Support Services, you know, Direction Home, the Vantage Agency, used to be Mature Services. You know, lots of resources. It's just a matter of where are the seniors, how did they find out about all of these wonderful resources, and how do we maintain or get that connectedness somehow in place so they know where to go and how we can reach out. Because a lot of agencies are not only providing services in the agencies, they're doing a lot of community home-based services. So we just have to make sure we're coordinating our efforts well and making sure that people are aware of all of the advantages we have in this county. We're really blessed in Summit County. Now it's just a matter of how do we make everyone who is in need aware of what's available, how do they access it, how do we find out about them so we can take it to them if they don't come to us. So I really, really appreciate all the work that you've done, and we realize that there's more work to do. And like you said, this is a 5-year plan, and we're already into our 2nd year. But this is amazing, and thank you so very, very much. So I think you've just given us a lot to review, a lot to think about, and it's a good time because we do have a few dollars of ARPA money available to help us implement some of these wonderful plans. So if there are no other questions or comments,
Madam Chair.
Dr. Stern, would like to recognize the rest of your committee that's present.
Yes, I think we would like to do that. So we have, let me see, we have Shirley Finney. We have Karen Hedlicker, who is the Vice Chair of the Commission. We have Bambi Miller, who is the Secretary of the Commission. Brenna Herman from the AMHA. And Ted Rodko from Vantage Aging, the Executive Director. So the Commission is made up of both professionals who are heading up major agencies as well as senior citizens. I think I'm the oldest member of the Commission. September 80 for me, so and I've been on the Commission on Aging since when we first started it in 1974. I was the founding chair. So I've been at this a while, but I must say we have a wonderful opportunity with this new plan to move ahead.
Wow. Again, thank you so much. Now, Sarah, were you about to say something? Is there anybody else with their hand up or any other comments before we wrap this up?
Yes, Madam Chair. Gert Wilms has her hand up.
Oh, okay, good. I couldn't see. I'm sorry. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I too would like to thank the Commission. Thank you for all your work and your willingness to serve. It is very much appreciated. For Council's purposes, Dr. Stern, Susan, if you could actually tell them if they are going to provide feedback, what the deadline to weigh in on this plan would be.
Sure, I can perhaps provide my email address to the office, and I would say, is a couple weeks okay? Is that all right? do you want to say July 1st? Does that sound fair? All right. Yeah, so any comments or modifications that you would like to submit, please, if we could have it by then, so that we can get that incorporated into this plan and get this finalized. And we do appreciate so much your attention and your support. It really makes this work very meaningful.
And Susan Sigmund serves as co-chair of both the City Age-Friendly Akron as well as Age-Friendly Summit. I serve on the committee for the county, and I must tell you that your Commission on Aging and its membership is most appreciative of the fact that both the mayor and council have taken such an interest in this project, so thank you.
And thank you so very much. So with that, we'll make sure, Dick Sir will get out a notice to everyone to have the feedback to you by then. But thank you so very, very much for your work. If no other matters before us, I'd like to call the meeting, to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.
Our next committee of the day is the Public Utilities and Green Committee. Those committee members are Freeman, McKittrick, Connor, Mosley, and Holland. We do have all members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very, very much. We will call the meeting to order. If we could please have a roll call.
Freeman.
Here.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Connor. Aye. Mosley. Here. Holland.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. And could I have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, please let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. I just heard one aye, but I'm trusting that everyone else voted as well. Let's try that again. All in favor, please let me know by saying aye.
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 There we go. Okay, thank you. All right, we have one item coming before us. This is ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and, if granted, enter into agreements with the water supply revolving loan account for certain water supply capital improvement projects and declaring an emergency. And who will be addressing this here?
It's Chris Little, Mr. Chairman and members of committee. This legislation will allow us to, as you said, apply for the water supply revolving loan fund, total of $8 million. We have 5 projects we have targeted. I can give a brief description of all of them. One is the Archwood Pump Station improvements, lead service line replacement program, raw water intake replacement, Akron U, there's a 30-inch water main running up through campus. It starts at Wolf Ledges, the old Buchtel Commons. They're going to do a full improvement of that area, which is removing the brick and putting the brick. We have a 30-inch water main under this section, nearly 100 years old water main that we'd like to replace. And our water main replacement program, and also some miscellaneous improvements at the water plant. So with that, we have applied for these funds through Ohio EPA. Usually by this time, we know if our nominations have been accepted. We've had good feedback from them. They just haven't announced it yet. So this just allows us to apply for those funds, sir.
Excellent. Okay, let's open it up first to any questions or comments from any committee members. If you would please raise your hand. If I don't see your hand, just shout out. Any council members with questions or comments? Mr. Lowe, what would be your preference? Should we suspend rules?
Consent is fine, sir. The timing's okay.
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
Consent is fine, sir.
Okay, very good. So looking for a motion for consent.
Motion for consent.
Thank you. And second?
Second.
All in favor, please let me know, saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll see that this item is placed on the consent agenda. and we will adjourn at 3:24. Thank you, everyone.
Our final committee of the day is the Budget and Finance Committee. Those committee members are Freeman, Amobian, Malik, Baylor, and Lombardo.
All right, it is 3:24. We will call the Budget and Finance Committee meeting to order. If we could please have a roll call.
Freeman.
Present.
Amobian.
Present.
Malik.
Present.
Baylor.
Present.
Lombardo.
All right, thank you. And if we could have a motion to accept the minutes from our previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All right, in favor, please let me know by saying aye.
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 Thank you all. We have one item here. This is ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of advertising for bids with Tyler Technologies for the purchase of annual software users licenses for the Tyler Odyssey case management system and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is the software licenses for the court's new case management system. We have Montrella Jackson from the, Ann Debbie Walsh from the courts to present on this piece of legislation.
We've been discussing this for a while, and so this is the ordinance to allow us to go ahead and proceed. Are there questions from committee members? Questions from anyone on council? I'm sure they're anxious to get this piece passed and to begin using the system. Now this is for, please excuse me, this is for how many years, Mr. Fricker? Just 1 year?
So this is actually the 3-year contract. We already had approval for the implementation. This would be for the additional user licenses for 81 users at the court, which is an annual cost. If you recall, we decided to use the software as a service rather than the on-premise version. And so we are before you today as we move forward with the project. We're at a place now where we are requesting approval for the payment of the licenses.
Okay, very good. Okay, looking for any questions or comments. Ms. Bibiano, am I missing anyone?
Mr. Malik has his hand raised.
Very good. Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know, Ms. Jackson, Ms. Walsh, it wasn't too long ago that you were here talking about this, but could you kind of give us an update on where the implementation is today?
Sure. So we are in the midst of, we're at about 14 months of the implementation for the court-wide version of the package. We are very close, maybe within 30 days of full implementation of the probation supervision portion. We're ready to go live with that. We just have to, prep the team and get everything ready. We were before you last time for the integration toolkit, and I can have asked Debbie to speak on that piece, but that's where we are in terms of implementation.
And we have integration toolkit, and we've learned more about it and what's going on with it. We are exploring the best ways to get it implemented and have it performing for all the functions we need it to. So we are in the process of it. We've had some initial training on it, and we're working on getting those systems integrated and up and moving.
So if I can follow up, what is remaining left in terms of the implementation, and how close are we to full implementation?
So we are the second court in Ohio to go forward with this package, and so as Debbie mentioned, some of the integration pieces, tying the system into the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, reporting other information to the Supreme Court, those are pieces that are still being worked on. So we've had 3 data conversions, so we're in a good place there. Most of our data has been converted. At this stage, it's really integrating us to the systems that we use. DeGel just went live with their Tyler Gel case management system. And then some of the other pieces are forms and reports. So we figure we have anywhere from, I don't know, Debbie, what's the number, about 500 between the forms and the reports.
200 to 400 forms and reports that we have to make sure are operational and ready to go.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you pull that microphone closer? They're going to have a hard time hearing.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking that we probably have 200 reports and about 400 forms that we just have to verify are operational, converted properly, ready to be used, and we have teams working on going through and verifying that.
So if I could just add, so that would be once we get an idea on the integration toolkit of how to get those, it's about 8 hours per report, I believe we were told. So the vendor that's going to help us do that, once we get that, so at this point we haven't set a select go live date until we get that number. We were looking at sometime around September, but again, it's all contingent on how many of those reports or forms we're able. And we are watching Cleveland Municipal Court. We want to make sure we have everything in place. We believe with the probation system going live, that will give us more of a pilot or a test area to make sure we get it right, because with 60,000 cases, it's our first system in new system in 30 years, so we want to get it right.
Absolutely, and actually, I was speaking with one of my constituents maybe a month ago, and they were talking about the implementation of the first system in the 80s, and so I definitely understand the lift that it takes to get this done, but I appreciate all the work that's being done in the municipal court building on this.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? What would be your preference on this, please?
If we are in a position to ask, we would request that it move forward. So if, on an emergency basis, I guess is what we would request.
I'm sorry, I'm losing audio. I'm just losing you here.
I think we're requesting suspension of the rules.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have this item before us, and I'm looking for a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved with a favorable report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules and to issue a favorable report this evening. All in favor, please let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you to each and every one of you for bringing this information forward, and we look forward to passing this evening. And I believe that's all we have for budget and finance. We will adjourn at 3:32 p.m.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, we have a presentation today.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. All right, please proceed.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Freeman and members of the committee. We are here today to give you guys an update on the City of Akron's American Rescue Plan Act Recovery Spending Plan. First, we're going to have Jake Bell give an overview of the website that we've been working on to creating, and then we're going to turn it over, and Steve Fricker will lead, along with all of the other project managers, about the different programs that we have been implementing and allocating budget for. So I'm going to turn it over to Jake. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. There's a separate document, I believe, sent to everybody regarding specifically the website. So first of all, we began the website development several months back at the beginning of the year, and we first gave the initial presentation going over some of the 30,000-foot goals of the website. Transparency was kind of at the forefront of that, and telling the story of how these funds were going to be invested throughout the community, and building a platform that we could update quickly and keep up to date with the newest information for residents to stay informed and access funding opportunities as well, and provide a transparent view as to how the city was spending those funds. So we've worked tirelessly over the last few months to develop what we think is a great platform, a great ARPA website to show those things. I don't know if this is up yet. You guys will have the presentation emailed to you to go over the specific screenshots I've attached showing some of the website. So please review that, and feel free to send any kind of feedback. It has a lot of great features, including obviously pages explaining investment. Oh, here we go. This will be helpful.
Yes.
Could we advance? Yeah, one slide. We have it printed. I sent to Michelle.
Mr. Fricker, I just forwarded this to you. If you can screen share, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Got it.
Okay, great. Can you advance one slide, please?
Okay. A lot of stuff blocking my.
Okay, perfect. So we kind of went over this, some of the top objectives, and I'll add in addition to that, that ensuring that the site was accessible to all demographics and age groups was also at the forefront of the priorities for the site, as well as all the other things I had mentioned previously. Could you advance one, please? So here's the home page when you initially load the page. We've included kind of a slider, if you will, of some of the top investment priorities. And this will be the first one we'll premiere the site with a Learn More section to learn a little bit more about the history of ARPA funding. We could skip ahead one. So as I said, the slider will provide a glimpse into the top priorities and the most recent updates involving grants, new investment priorities, and things of that nature. So this will be updated as the years go on. You can go ahead and go forward. As we scroll down, we see some of the main investment priorities listed with some brief descriptions, as well as links to the Learn More section for users to dive in a little bit deeper and learn more about these priorities. We can go forward again. As we continue to scroll down, we see an interactive timeline that moves as you scroll the page and includes some of the history of the funds, some allocation information, as well as those future dates of 2024 and 2026 where the funds must be allocated and then invested in the community. And this will be updated as time goes on with more recent timeline events as things start to get rolled out. Below we have eligibility guidelines, which links to some information on the federal guidance for spending these funds, and also links to the Treasury website as well. We can keep going. You'll see that eligibility page, at least the top half of that right here, which will provide some information on why we chose certain priorities. We can continue. Thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, there are multiple ways to access each investment priority from the navigation bar at the top, as well as right below that slider I had mentioned on the first page. This is an example of one of them. This is for the Youth Opportunity and Community Violence Prevention subpage, which talks a little bit about the purpose behind this investment priority, and then we'll list each program underneath. And this is the exact same format for all of the investment priorities, with an overview, and then as you scroll down, all of the programs listed. We can keep going.
When you click on the program listed, will you get directed to their website also?
Yes, so as we continue here, as you'll see, if you click on the VIP grant page right here, there's some information on the program itself, as well as a list of all the grantees, which will link to their respective website or social media. And we're using this as a platform to provide further updates into the future regarding events they may have or any kind of information they may want to push into the community as well. So that's an example of that page. And we can keep going to the next one. Oh, this is fine right here. Just another example. This is on the Access to Healthcare and Social Services priority page, just showing similar formatting. And as we dive into the financial coaches section, we can keep going. One more slide, please. This page, same, provides an overview of the funding, as well as this one we were able to flesh out a little bit more at the present moment because the Financial Empowerment Center has been around, and there's some tangible community benefits we can show as to why, and also some content regarding some people who have actually gone through the Financial Empowerment Center. And that's really the plan for all of these pages. As time goes on and we start to see the impact of these investments into the community, to keep the site updated with the most recent, more content, kind of explaining the tangible benefits of having that. And I believe that's it. Oh, here's the Parks and Public Spaces section. Similar format, just showing how we are going to have the Lock 3 Vision Plan page laid out with some of those mock-ups of the planned site. So I believe that completes the slide, concludes the deck. So yeah, we're really excited. We're still putting the finishing touches on some portions of the site currently, and this is going to be kind of a living document, a work in progress, and we'll get updated as time goes on, and we'll provide transparency into how we're spending these funds and kind of show the benefit in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Chairman Freeman. We're going to, I believe Mitch from Guidehouse is on to share the next the next PowerPoint presentation. Just wanted to give a heads up. The website will be live June 23rd. So we will be doing, the website will go live June 23rd. Okay, Mitch, you can share your screen.
And you want me to share my screen?
Yes, and then Steve is going to run through the slides. So.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Steve.
Okay, Mitch, go ahead and go to the next screen. Okay, so, and Jay kind of touched on this in terms of the way that the website is structured. These are the eligible uses for the funding as defined by the federal government. So they broke everything into 5 separate eligibility categories, which are support the public health response, respond to negative economic impacts, premium pay for essential workers, revenue loss, and then investments in infrastructures. So as we'll see on the next page, we took these 5 eligible uses and we made 8 different buckets that we defined for the city of Akron, and those are violence prevention, parks and...
I'm going to interrupt you just for one moment. Ms. Amobian, I'm going to have to ask you to take over the chairship of the meeting because I do have to be excused at this time. Would that be okay?
That's fine, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fricker. Pardon the interruption, but I do need to step away, and Ms. Amobian will continue to chair the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. So as I was saying, we at the city divided our total ARPA plan up into 8 different buckets. So There were violence prevention, parks and public spaces, access to healthcare and social services, housing, small business growth, public utilities, budget stabilization, and then the administrative costs of delivering the projects. So we're going to kind of go through on the next series of slides kind of individual projects that we've defined, talk about where we are with these projects. Some we are just starting to get going on now, others we're still kind of planning out, but we'll kind of go through all the projects. Okay. So on the first page, we have our violence prevention projects. So the Violence Intervention and Prevention Community Grant Program, we have started working on these various contracts. So we basically have 11 contracts in place. We have actually started spending dollars in this area. We talked about this a little bit during the budget hearings, but we have 11 different providers at this point, and we've encumbered about $1.2 million for these various contracts that we put in place. And to date, we've actually spent about $481,000. So this is one of the areas that we do have up and running, and we are have several contracts in place at the current time. The next one is the surveillance cameras. This is the project that we're doing in the University of Akron area. So we are going to contribute $850,000 to a combined project between the city, the county, and the university. And then in coordination with that, we're also doing some additional investment with our flock cameras, and that's the camera program that we talked about, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but the plate reader cameras, some of that will be paid for with ARPA funding. We also have a FUSIS contract in place, and what FUSIS does is it allows private businesses with their own cameras to kind of tap into the city's network of cameras, so we can share some of that information that's gathered by those cameras. So we feel like we're going to have a good camera program, and that will extend to other areas beyond just this university area, but it's kind of a citywide initiative. We're going to offer this FUSIS program so that other private businesses can tie their cameras into the city's network. And then we also have the doorbell camera program. We have not purchased those cameras yet, but we're looking to do that soon, and that's about a $47,000 project. So any questions about the violence prevention projects?
Any hands there?
There are none. Oh, I'm sorry, I did just see Councilman Malik has his hand raised, and Councilwoman Mosley.
Councilman Malik, and then we'll go to Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Mr. Fricker. First, you mentioned the money encumbered and expended for the Violence Intervention Grant Program. Has there been funds encumbered or expended for the other projects?
There have been for the, we've purchased the FUSIS license that I mentioned. We have not spent yet for at least our contribution to the county. I anticipate that will take place soon, but we have not made that contribution to that University of Akron camera project yet. And as I mentioned, the doorbell cameras have not been purchased yet.
Sure, and I guess I don't want to ask this line by line, but is that information about the money that's been encumbered and expended going to be available either to us or online?
Yes, it will be part of the website.
Okay, and that'll be when it launches?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Chairman Amobian. Two questions, Steve. On this, the neighborhood doorbell cameras, thank you for having this in the budget. I appreciate it. The allocation, you're saying 47,000. How many cameras are we talking about with 47,000?
But at this point, because we
It's,
just had the meeting before this.
I got it.
Oh, okay.
So there will be about 300 to 310 cameras. We're going to do a pilot program first to make sure that we're doing this and that the cost-benefit analysis is there. We're also going to have Kent State and the University of Akron do an evaluation to see if this is something that is beneficial to the city, in addition to the flock and the Fusus cameras, and making sure that we're using them appropriately. So, and we'll have a targeted approach, and we will work with council members in the qualified census tracts.
So you say pilot, so you're
Yes.
going to have a targeted area for that. Have you designated that targeted area?
We are working on that target area, and if you want to come up, Captain Capers.
Can I do it from here? Is this all right? Yes, we need to do some overlays. We have the qualified census tracts, then we have the City of Akron crime data, and then we have home ownership data, and several other layers that we have to consider to figure out which areas we can place the cameras, and from that we have to find out people who own homes, who have access to Wi-Fi. There are like 8 layers to the map, and once we figure that out, then we can talk about a good way to design a study so that it's a reliable study. So all of that being said, we still have some work to do to define who and how we're going to get those cameras out.
So this is only going to be for homeowners?
Yes, that's the way it's designed. People have to own the home that they live in to get the camera for this first group of cameras that are coming out. Yes, ma'am.
And the hardest part in all of that is consent. And the homeowner is always the easiest to get consent from. So
The
that's just
landlord.
some low-hanging fruit on a pilot.
Okay. Okay, on the second question on these flock cameras, it says 150. I thought we passed that, it was like 300,000.
Right, this is just a portion that's being funded, and I think the 150 is a little bit of a misnomer because the Fusus would be included there. My understanding is this will include the 20 additional cameras that we're doing of the flock cameras that will be part of the university, plus a little bit of the startup cost of that.
Okay.
So in total, we'll have 145 cameras, I believe.
145, 300 plus, okay. So before these cameras are installed or before we come up with a pilot location, can you all loop us in on where this targeted area is going to be?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other hands up, Sarah?
There are no hands here in chambers, Madam Chair.
Yeah. The question that just came up, you say you're starting with homeowners? Because when you start looking at the census tracts that are eligible for these dollars, you're going to find a lot of individuals are renters and not necessarily homeowners. So you're going to come back to us and let us know how many folks that you've actually found that, because I'm not really sure why ownership matters. If you live in an area where, you know, crime is raging and you need the cameras. Could someone explain that to me?
I'm going to tell you that I don't fully know the answer, but my understanding is the grant money that we got was kind of dependent upon that being a requirement.
I can't hear you. Speak into the money, please. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear that, yes.
I don't want to say definitively that this is the answer, but I believe the grant money that was used for this had that as a requirement of receiving the money.
That you had to be a homeowner versus just an occupant in the city of Akron in a census tract that is eligible for these dollars. Is that what you're saying?
Again, it's a pilot program. It's a contingency right now. It's something we can definitely come back and look. Once we get these 3 cameras up running, we get consent and cooperation with homeowners, which is just an easier program for us to run off the bat. We can definitely come back, look at the criteria, and possibly extend the program beyond just homeowners.
If I might, Councilman Wogan, speak to the compliance as it relates to ARPA. You know, this is not a requirement of ARPA that it goes to renters or homeowners. The final rule doesn't get into that level of detail. However, in talking to peer cities, whether it be Baltimore or Chicago or DC, who have implemented similar programs, one of the largest barriers to executing this program is the installation of the cameras in homes. And so given this is a pilot program where the city of Akron is testing out, how to structure it, how to distribute them, how to install them, and all the legal and compliance that follows, it does make sense knowing that installation period is a major barrier to start with homeowners.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. However, I haven't heard said too, so we'll come back to visit this. But you will find a lot of renters who have been in their residences for many, many years. So it's not that they're transient, and they need the protection and prevention like everybody else. So keep that in mind. I'm not really sure how things happen in larger cities like the ones you named, because they certainly may have more transient folks than we do. I don't know, but I know we have a lot of people in the city of Akron who rent, and they have been renting for years and years and years, unfortunately. So we'll come back to it.
We'll keep that in mind as we go through the development of the pilot program. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
Yes, Councilman Malik.
Thank you. Given this discussion, I just had one comment and one further question. The comment was last year when we had a presentation, some of us might remember from a similar pilot program in Kansas City, Missouri. They worked very closely with some of the local CDCs and nonprofit groups in the target area that they used as a go-between, as trusted folks who could help not only in identifying individuals who wanted the cameras, but also in making sure to get the information back from the cameras to the police in instances where there might be folks who are afraid to directly reach out to police departments. So just wanted to mention that. And then the question then goes to that second piece. Once the cameras are installed, has there been discussions about how the data is going to function? So will these individuals register with the department? Will they be required to provide data to the department when asked? How is that going to function?
Councilman Malik, I think I can address that. So generally speaking, the way that Ring, among other doorbell camera companies work, we cannot require them to provide us with that information. It's all voluntary. Now, part of the program will be rolling out some terms and conditions where folks will hopefully agree to share data with us, but at the end of the day, it will be voluntary. So that's that piece of it. Sorry, what else?
I think you addressed it, Mr.
Okay.
Angelini.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the other question I have at the top, with regard to these nonprofit programs that we are providing funds to prevent violence, have we started sending out the checks yet to these individual groups? I mean, summer is upon us, and I know this is the time where we are really trying to get children involved in some proactive activities. So have we started?
Yes, they've already received their checks.
So the answer is yes. The answer is yes. We've spent about $481,000 of that money so far to those organizations.
Okay, well, sounds good. I just want to make sure they've gotten some money to start their programs. Thank you so much. Please continue, Mr.
Okay, so let's go to the next slide, which is the Parks and Public Places. So Lock 3 Vision Plan, we anticipate starting that project after the concert season in the fall. It's going to have a wide variety of improvements to the park, including new walking and biking paths, new skating areas, several other improvements. So as I said, we intend to start that in the fall. The Summit Lake Vision Plan, my understanding is they are actually in the process right now of bidding out the trail portion of that project. So that is going to be underway soon, followed by the development of the North Shore activity area. In terms of the community centers, the first one that will be renovated is the Ed Davis Community Center. So we also anticipate starting to work on that facility in the fall sometime. And my understanding is that the Perkins Pool project will proceed alongside with that project. And then we would do the Reservoir Park Community Center will be approximately a year from now, along with its pool improvement. And then the Patterson, there it is. The Patterson is in the middle.
Yeah, we're going to try to, with Ed Davis, once Ed Davis is wrapped up, go forward with Reservoir and try to bid Patterson sometime in the middle of those two. So they'll be good. 3 won't be going on at the same time, but, you know, over the length of 2, hopefully we will get 3 done. We didn't want to shut down both pools at the same time, so that's why we staggered the 2.
Yeah, and then Joy Park also will be proceeding soon. We actually added the replacement, their HVAC system. We just found out needed a replacement, so that has been added into that project as well.
Madam Chair, I can see that Councilwoman Mosley has her hand raised.
Councilwoman Mosley, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Councilwoman Amobian. There's a huge disparity between Joy Park and these other parks. Huge. I'm just trying to figure out why, for one. And 2, it says the funding to improve Joy Park's walking path. We don't have a walking path, so what are we improving? Or are we creating
one? Yes.
Okay, and that's going to include lighting? Yes. Lots of lighting, because we have some challenges over there, and I'm concerned. I've voiced this several times. I would almost want to see a breakdown, because I'm looking at $410,000, but then look at these other parks and they're spending millions of dollars.
Councilwoman Mosley, those other community centers are being completely rehabbed and one is being completely rebuilt.
Yeah, I understand that.
Based off of the survey, right? The facilities assessment that was done, how many years ago? 2 years ago.
So when did, I see they have the HVAC on here for Joy Park. We just talked about that one earlier today. So what about the roof of Joy Park? Because it's definitely leaking. Where's that at in the budget?
Okay.
Sorry. So we did a complete inventory of all of our community centers, and it was determined that at Davis, Reservoir, and Patterson were the ones that most dire need. We do have a 10-year plan, so Joy Park Community Center will be later on down that timeline. I can't tell you specifically when, but that is on our radar in a couple of years. In the short term, we looked at the HVAC. That's a dire need of repairs, so that's going to be taken care of right now. The roof, we're hoping, will last until we get to the major renovations of that community center in the near future. I don't know where that is on the list, but I can get that information for you.
So we're saying we're not going to repair the roof of Joy Park for 10 years?
I don't know where it's at on the list.
Madam Chair, if the roof is leaking, we'll take care of it, okay? We may not replace it, but we will,
Right.
we will rehab the portions that need to keep the water out. We definitely will do that.
Okay. My next question is playground. I know we're getting a kaboom, but there's like 3 separate playground areas at Joy Park. So I'm not sure which one is going to be the Kaboom. I'm assuming that's the one that's going to be by the basketball courts and the tennis court. And then we have the small one off of the building. Then there's the one over by the splash pad. So which playgrounds are we talking about that fall within this parameter?
I don't have that exactly in front of me, but I can get you that information.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a consolidation of two of them, and then there's still so it'll end up being two total, I believe. One of them being brand new, but I can get you that information.
Okay. So whichever ones that are going to be the Kaboom and the one that falls in this one of them is very non-functional. So maybe if we could do something about, I mean, if we don't need 3 playgrounds.
Right.
I mean, if one of them has a lot of rust going on, and it concerns me with the kids at the splash pad, and they're going to that one that seems to have some challenges, so.
And that isn't under ARPA, so that's not part of this presentation, but I can get you the information on it. I have it back in the office.
Okay, thank you.
When I first looked at this, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, when I first looked at this, I thought that was $4 million. And then I looked at it again. Someone needs to do a good breakout for us, because I have been to all of these parks, with the exception of, I haven't been at Davis lately, but I've been there before. I haven't been to Reservoir Park Community Center, but I certainly will make it there. But I have been to the others, Patterson, all the others. You have to do a better job of explaining how you have less than $500,000 for Joy Park in the community where we have apparently one of the highest crime rates, where you want to engage the children more. Someone has to explain, this is a huge differential that doesn't make any sense for me, just on the face of this. I look at these numbers, and you need to be able to explain how you have less than $500,000 for Joy Park, and you have all of these multi-million dollars for these other parks. So if you could break out each one of these for us, please, and send it to us, I would love to see it. And even if it's in a capital plan, and someone want to pull it out and send it to us, to all council members, but I certainly want you to see it, because this doesn't make any sense to me, folks. Am I looking at this correctly? Am I missing something? Every park we're looking at has multi-million dollars, and Joy Park, which is located in the community probably with the highest crime rate, less than $500,000. Somebody help me. I know you may be talking about physical, but I've been there, and I've been to Patterson. I've been to Summit Lake. I go to Malton. I've been to all of these, with the exception of the 2 that I identified. So there has to be an explanation for this differential. It really makes no sense on the face of this to me. So who's going to get this information to us and how soon?
We will get that to you. We'll definitely make sure you have the facility needs study so you can see how these decisions were made.
Okay, and please, you talk about a 10-year plan. Some of these are scheduled to happen quicker than 10 years. So let's just talk about what we're going to do. I know we have to obligate the money by 2024, spend it by 2026. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. There was some discussion about Patterson. Is that being rehabbed separately, or is that part of the ARPA as well?
Yeah, it's on the second page of the parks.
It's the one on the screen right now, yeah.
Okay. Okay, and I think that also, just to clarify the point, Ms. Tomek, I think that you made, the 10-year facility plan, not all of those improvements will be made with ARPA money, right? ARPA will be used for some things, the things reflected here.
That study predated even having ARPA, so that was done 2 years ago.
Yes, and from the current facilities needs that we have, the decision was made to pay for some of that using ARPA and some of that using other forms of debt.
Correct. The first 3, we thought the first 3 that we could do would fall under both the timeline and the budget of ARPA.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, the information that will be sent out will explain all of that. You may continue, unless there are other hands. Are there other hands here?
I don't see any right now, Madam Chair.
Please continue.
Okay, so the next bucket is access to healthcare and social services. And there are 3 projects under this bucket. The access point, we have not made that distribution yet, but we will be contributing $1 million towards that facility. For the Financial Empowerment Center, this will fund 3 years at $200,000 each, and that money will go to support 2 financial course coaches, as well as some of the administrative operations of the facility. And then finally, we have the House 330 project. We have not made that contribution yet, but that will be for the workforce development programs at that facility. Any questions about that?
Yeah, the access points, wasn't it 3 million or something? Because you're talking about the one that they want to put with the Akron school, is that correct?
Yeah, the project is I think even around 4 million. But I think they raised 3 million from a federal grant, and this is our contribution towards it.
So we're taking 1 million from ARPA dollars for the access, I promise, whatever they had in paper the other day,
So,
but it's
yeah.
access point just moving there.
Access Point is having a second facility there, yes. They're
Now,
not,
who's going to purchase, is this to purchase the building as well, or the building's already taken care of?
the building is, I think, right now, currently under the ownership of the foundation. But this is towards the build-out and the actual facility itself.
Are we going to own the building, or
No.
Access Point purchases? Who's going to own the building?
I don't want to say 100%, but I think Access Point is going to be leasing it, either lease to own or some.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Currently, the building is owned by the foundation. I don't have in front of me what the relationship will be, whether it be a lease to own, or a sale at some point in time. But it's currently owned by the foundation.
Could you find out what the plan is, and then let us know, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Are there other questions?
Madam Chair, Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
Go ahead, I can hear you, sir.
Mr. Fricker, you mentioned the funds for House 330 will go towards workforce. Are there any details that you could maybe email us? As to
We'll
exactly
pull those together and email it, correct.
Thank you very much.
I have that, and I think we did circulate it during the capital budget, but I can dig that back up again.
Okay.
Or the operating budget, one of the budgets.
I know we discussed it.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure that those.
I have that. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
And the Financial Empowerment Center, those dollars are to hire individuals to help with the work, is that what that is?
There were additional hires during the pandemic, and this is to keep those hires on for an additional period of time.
At some point, the plan is to expand out to other centers to make those coaches available other places too, or they're gonna just keep them localized at Kenmore?
Go ahead. So currently, they do have agreements in place prior to COVID where the coaches would go to the University of Akron and other locations to meet with our residents. But now, because of the pandemic, most of our residents meet with the coaches virtually and over the phone, but they are welcome to come to the center in person.
Okay. No, that was a great program. I know some people that have been helped by it, so I'm good about that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Mosley has her hand raised.
Please, go ahead.
So back to the access point and the House 330, these programs and the facilities, they will be open to the community? Or is this just going to be programs put in place for students of I Promise and their families?
So the Access Point is open to the community. When Access Point came to us to ask to help them locate a building after they were removed from the Broadway facility. We helped them find that location, and after they got money from the federal government, they asked us if they could have $1 million. They asked us this before we were given the ARPA dollars, so we were in negotiations to see how we could help them obtain that, fulfill the grant that they received from the federal government, from HRSA. And so they made a separate deal with the foundation, separate and apart from our deal with them, to get them the $1 million. So this is open to the community. It is not just for the I Promise students and their families, it is to the entire community.
Okay, and what about House 330, that funding?
House 330, that funding, when we write that contract, we will make it so that it is available to the entire community.
Thank you.
Are there any other hands? Sharon?
I don't see any at the moment.
Okay, so if there's no more questions on that, we will move to the public utility investments. So here we have 4 different projects, the first of which is Akron Cares. So to date, we've spent about $500,000 with Akron Cares assistance. So we did about $80,000 last year and have done an additional $415,000 this year. So we spent about 20% of what we've allocated for the entire ARPA grant so far. For the lead service replacement, that is getting underway. I'll let Chris talk a little bit more about this one, because we've combined a number of different funding sources along with these ARPA funds in order to do these lead service eliminations.
So the portion of the lead services, what we're doing is we did obtain a $5 million grant from the state of Ohio to remove lead services. We're taking this $2.5 million, and then we did get, we are applying for the $2.5 million that we had in this previous legislation. So that's a total of $10 million. So we're going to take this, build it in one big program. Now we are going to try to attract some small businesses to do this work. So this isn't going to be a $10 million contract. I can't tell you right now without interviewing some companies if we're going to have 10 companies and each of them get $1 million, how that's going to break out. But this roughly will renew about 1,200 of the lead services that we have remaining in our system, which will take us down to under 1,500. So as you know, we have 85,000 services in the city. Roughly there was probably 55,000 to 60,000 at one time, and now after this we'll be down to about 1,500 in our total system. When we look at where these lead services are, typically they're in the older sections of the town, partially in Ward 5, partially in Ward 2, Ward 10. When we started our lead service renewals, for some reason Ellet was probably newer. There isn't hardly any over there, if any, in Ellet. So this will fit the demographics of our qualified census tracts, and that's what, and I will take any questions if anybody has any.
Are there any questions, any hands raised? Sarah?
I don't see any at the moment, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, so the other projects here are, we're actually funding our annual 2023 water main replacement project. So this is just the annual replacement of older mains. We have, we still have water infrastructure in the city that is, a century old, and we have to replace a certain portion of it each year, and these funds will help with that. So that has already started. We have begun to acquire the materials for this project. We've encumbered about $2.5 million so far, so this project is just starting now, but we have put some contracts in place to start this water main replacement project. And then finally, we have the 30-inch water main replacement that we did at the University of Akron. This work is actually already complete. but we have not expended the money. We anticipate getting the invoices from the contractor, but we will cover that project with ARPA funds. With that, I'll take any questions about the public utility investments.
Are there any hands up? Any questions?
There are no hands raised.
Please continue.
All right, so moving on to the housing bucket. So here there are 5 different programs that we have. The first of which is supporting our CDCs here within the city of Akron. We plan to do an RFP for these dollars to see how those will be distributed. So that is upcoming. Our housing repair program, we anticipate having an administrator in place sometime by the end of this month probably, and we'll launch that program in July. And then the I Promise Affordable Housing Project, I think that the description in the presentation kind of speaks for itself, so that's a $675,000 project. We will supplement our annual demolition dollars that we fund with CDBG and the Housing Appeals Board dollars with $800,000 of ARPA funds. And then finally, we have a new affordable housing construction. We are still kind of working through the details on exactly how we will spend those dollars. With that, are there any questions about the housing bucket?
Madam Chair, I can see that Councilman Lombardo has his hand raised.
Please, Mr. Lombardo.
Thank you. Mr. Fricker, with the demolition, does that include, I know you said Housing Appeals Board.
All right.
Is the VBR program part of that too?
This will be residential demolition, so it would not be part of the VBR.
Okay. And then I heard you say, like, if there's, I don't know, 400 or 500,000 for the Housing Appeals Board, there's 800,000 is in addition to it?
Correct. It would supplement the assessment dollars from the Housing Appeals Board, as well as we also do some demolition with CDBG dollars.
So we have about $1.2 or $3 million for demolition on houses?
Somewhere in that neighborhood,
okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Are there any other hands raised?
Yes, Madam Chair, Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
Councilman Malik.
Thank you. Mr. Fricker, I know that the housing repair program is very eagerly anticipated. Are there any details that are available about how that program is going to function and the timeline and eligibility?
Yeah, we anticipate having much more information to you within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
But on a high level, we're looking at, as we mentioned in the past, there will be certain qualifications, income qualifications for those living in qualified census tracts. There will be also money available for those outside of qualified census tracts, but the income limitation will be, more stringent than the ones within the qualified census tracts. The idea is we're going to get this launched. People can apply. We do due diligence to see if they qualify, then send people out to do an inspection of the homes to see what's eligible and what is in most dire need of construction, and then, we fix it up to $25,000 per home is the plan.
We will have a much more, as Sean said, a detailed press conference for all of you next Thursday. It's June 23rd is when we will have a press conference.
Thank you. In the meantime, I appreciate those details.
Yeah.
Any other hands here?
Yes, Councilwoman Holland and also Councilwoman Mosley.
Okay, let's go in that order. Councilwoman Holland, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I know I just keep asking some version of the following question over and over again, but I do Note that we have both Mr. Lindstrom and our own finance people on this call at the same time today, so I'm going to do it again. I have had so many questions from the good people of Ward 1 trying to understand whether ARPA assistance on the housing repair side of things will necessarily be limited to qualified census tract. And most recently, this question arose when a resident contacted their congressional rep and United States Senator's offices and were informed that that qualification criteria did not actually derive from the Treasury Code. And so I'm wondering if we can sort of sort this out so that I can take at least a somewhat informed answer back to these folks. When we are looking at the housing repair program, will we only look at financially qualified and living in a qualified census tract?
Sean, I'm going to take a shot at the compliance aspect and then kick to you to kind of speak to the program that Akron's in the process of finalizing the design. So this is a great question. And I want to uplift first off that this criteria around what constitutes a disproportionately impacted community or impacted community or individual changed since the last time I sat here and we presented the housing projects, right? And so the interim final rule was what we were working off of last time in the fall, last year when we spoke. Can't believe it's been that long. And then in January, the final rule was passed that got much, much more clearer as to who can qualify or who the city may spend these funds on for the various programs. So to answer your question, the qualified census tract criteria constitutes a disproportionately impacted community. However, home repair and rehabilitation programs, the final rule states that the end beneficiary or the recipient, essentially who is going to benefit from those funds, so in this case the homeowners, is classified as impacted. So they differentiated slightly, and geographic location is not a part of that. And so, but income is. Average median income, the Treasury sets a limit for what that is. So my understanding, and this is where I'm going to transition to Sean here, is that the City of Akron is going to have an option for those who reside in qualified census tracts and an income limit associated with that, and an option for those who fall outside of a qualified census tract, but note that there will need to be some sort of income limit that informs the prioritization of recipients.
Very good. Thank you for that answer.
Did you want to add to that, Sean? Or?
Oh, I don't think I need to add anything to that. He said it much more eloquently than I thought I did. So
I couldn't hear you.
we're good.
Okay. Well, let me ask this. We have, after today's meeting, we have 4 more meetings before we break for the summer council. And you plan to have something to us before we leave for the summer break. Is that the plan?
I plan to be working on houses before you leave for the summer break.
I can't understand.
I said I plan to be having us working on houses before you leave for summer break. So yes, we will have more information. Tamika said we're going to do a press release on the 23rd of June. So we should have much more information for you at that point.
Let me ask you this. I don't know what the press release is going to talk about, but you've identified $25,000, and I guess I can do the math by dividing that into 20 million and get some kind of figure. Approximately how many homes are we talking about, Steve? I think your math would be better than mine and quicker, probably. If we use 25,000 as the amount and 20 million as the budget, What are we roughly talking about?
Well, I don't know.
No, it's not, yeah, I mean, there will be administrative costs within that, as well. Subject to the same administrative cost limits as the rest of the ARPA money. But at one point in time, initially, I believe the mayor said he wanted to help at least 500 homes. We could do more than that with this, if this program is successful, as we hope it will be, then, 600, 650 maybe. But we want to spend $20 million on housing repair and rehab. So that's the plan.
Okay, that's good. Well, let me ask you this as a follow-up question. If a person is eligible, be it census tract or income eligibility, and they identify a person that they can hire to do the repairs, then could they do it on their own under this new person who's going to manage the program? Working with their chosen repair person?
No. They will, if that person has a company and they want to, throw their hat in the ring to be a part of the program, they can, try to get qualified to do that. But no, you will not be able to pick your own, a friend or relative or,
So you're going to have a list of providers. Is that what you plan to do?
Correct.
You can select from?
I don't think it'll be individually selected from it so much as a rotation, probably. And, they're very well maybe, okay, companies A, B, C, and D specialize in roofs. And, F, G, and H are HVAC. So you'd get a rotation of, but we plan to have a number of qualified companies.
And there will be an opportunity.
Because I know you get more money for more service for your money when you do something. Okay. Were you saying something to Tamika?
There will be an opportunity for individual contractors to partner with our contractors if they would like to do work on homes within the city of Akron. So there would be an opportunity, and we will talk about that at our press conference on June 23rd.
Okay. Councilwoman Logan, I would just add that is also a function of federal regulations, right, on how this money is bid out and who those funds go to. So it will help ensure compliance, how the city's deciding to run it.
Right, and I guess it was spread the dollars too, probably. I'm curious about this new affordable housing construction. Can someone talk about that and explain how you are envisioning that?
We do not have anything signed up as of this point in time, but it would be money to subsidize the construction of new affordable housing. But there's nothing, there's no contracts or anything finalized yet.
You will share with us before you put this in place, hopefully?
We will share with you. When we know what we're doing, we will share.
That sounds good. Thank you. Are there other questions? Council members?
I think Councilwoman Mosley, I think, had a question.
Oh, go ahead, sorry. Councilman Mosley.
Question about, two questions. The first one is on the demolition. So is this demolition specifically set aside for residential waivers? We have people who do the waiver program.
I don't think we're at that level of detail yet. I think we're supplementing the budget for.
Okay. Okay. And then my last question, piggybacking off what my colleagues have said about the housing repair program, and I know there's going to be this criteria outside of just the qualified census tract, and talking about the income. I'm hoping we don't get so far down the weeds, hoping that someone has a household where they're making $30,000, $40,000, because a lot of residents, they're just not making that. I have residents in my ward right now. I have an elderly lady on Glenwood, fixed income. She owns her house outright, but her stairs is crumbling. She needs a porch. So I'm hoping that we don't set this bar so high when we talk about income that we forget about people who actually own their houses but need some help. so they don't end up down here at our housing repair, housing board because of some issues that they may have. And we have this money and we could possibly help them. So I want to make sure that we just don't set it so high because people are struggling right now.
Well, we are not setting this. It is the adjusted median income that is set by the Treasury. So that's what we're going by. So if she's on a fixed income, it sounds like she should be eligible.
Qualify, yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you.
We'll have those numbers as well.
Okay.
Hands up, Sarah.
Yes, Madam Chair, Councilman Fusco has his hand raised.
I apologize.
Go ahead, Councilman Fusco.
Thank you, Ms. Mobian. I apologize, it's a late hour, but I'll try to be extremely brief here. I'm very happy to hear that, because what we have is we have areas that was not qualified. The area is the census tract, but then again, we have pockets in our neighborhoods, and we all know they're all over the city. They're in halfway, what you consider like a halfway decent area, but there's a pocket in there where we got problems. So that's great news, and happy to hear that. But the question is that if people want to go in, 25,000, and they want to do more, or there's more needed or whatever, and they have the wherewithal to possibly do that themselves, that's something to consider. Because, like I said, it may be where they need to do a little bit, like a roof or something on top of the heating, the this, the that. And then, but if they have the wherewithal to do that, I would just say that that's something that needs to be considered moving forward. So just ask that, that you look at that piece too.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
Councilman Fusco, are you down? I couldn't hear everything.
This may be a better question. This may be a better question for June 23rd, but are there anything in the program that's going to prioritize improvements that focus on environmental sustainability? If we're talking about HVAC, if we're talking about roofs and other kinds of things?
There will be priorities within of eligible repairs. Without having Thomas Tatum's actually testifying right now, I believe, on housing conditions down in Washington. But I would need him to go more into the details on what the priorities would be over.
Okay, thank you.
Any other hands?
Yes, Councilwoman Connor has her hand raised.
Is there any provision between homeowner?
Go ahead, Councilwoman Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there any provision between homeowner and renter?
What we are launching at the beginning will be for owner-occupied houses. We plan to have a rental program as part of this, but we're still working out some of the details on how we would do that.
Any other councilpersons?
I don't see it.
You don't see anyone? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Please continue.
Okay, so moving on to small business growth. So we have 4 components under this program. First, we have the Thrive Mentorship Program, and that's designed to help Black-owned small businesses. And I think Ms. Brackett's going to speak on this one.
Thank you. So we were approached by a private funder who would like to remain anonymous at this time to explore a partnership with us after we submitted our proposal to the Bloomberg Global Mayor's Challenge and we were unsuccessful. They had asked us to bring our team back together and go back to the drawing board with a new proposal. The only caveat with the investment is that we would have to make an investment of our ARPA dollars to unlock that funding. So that is something that is in the works at this time. I just have it earmarked, but it would be eligible under technical assistance, counseling, and business planning.
Are you still talking? See, I don't know, for some reason I didn't hear any of that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll speak in. So this would be eligible under technical assistance, counseling, and business planning, but it is our contribution to unlock private dollars for our Black entrepreneurship and small business program that we are preparing. We have not submitted yet.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, go through all of them? Excellent, okay.
I'll let Katie present because she's the one that has designed all this stuff, so.
So the next item you see here is the Small Business Hardship Grant Program, and this is designed to be one-and-done grants for businesses based on size. So they are tiered based on the amount of employees, ranging from $10,000 to $25,000. They would be based upon hardship, so they have to, similar to with the CARES Act, demonstrate that they had a hardship due to COVID, and then also we're including supply chain issues because we've heard from a lot of businesses in the community that they're suffering from supply chain issues that is making their costs more difficult to be in business because their costs are so high. Any questions about that? Yes.
Thank you. You know, when it comes to small businesses, one of the things, I don't know whether this is appropriate, but it might make sense to try to prioritize businesses that did not receive PPP, given that there are a lot of businesses that, you know, did not have a solid relationship with a financial institution. So just an idea.
It's a great one. Thank you. So that is a program that we hope to launch midsummer. Yes, I see Councilwoman Holland.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Holland. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize. I could not hear a word of what Councilman Malik just said, so I may be repeating his question or suggestion. One of the things that I've come across over and over again in the past year plus is the situation where some businesses seem to have done very well with PPP and others just completely missed that boat. And so I'd just like to raise my hand here as you get ready to drill down into the detail on this and suggest that perhaps there can be some greater attention given to those businesses that were too small or for whatever other reason were not able to benefit from those programs when they were rolling out.
Absolutely, and it sounds like great minds think alike, and that's something that we will incorporate in our notice of funding opportunity. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And if I might add, any business hardship related grant can only be used for a number of different costs associated with the business, and PPE and COVID related mitigation materials for both their business and their staff is one of the eligible expenses. So recipients of this particular grant program, the hardship grant, could use those funds that they receive on PPE.
Oh, and I apologize, Mr. Lindstrom. I was saying PPP, Paycheck Protection or Payroll Protection Program. But
got it. Yep.
Thanks.
Are there any other hands?
No hands at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I'll
Please
move
continue.
to the next program we have is called the Akron Spaces and Places Grant Program, and this would provide up to $50,000 grants to small businesses located in a qualified census tract or moving into a qualified census tract to enhance outdoor spaces for COVID-19 mitigation or to improve the built environment. And this program is just an idea how we would like to utilize these funds. I have not developed the NOFO for this opportunity, but it's something that we are looking forward to working towards later in the year. And then lastly, we have the City Council Small Business Assistance. This was an idea brought to us by Mr. Fusco to create a COVID-19 safe designation program where businesses would pledge to adhere to COVID-19 protocols, receive a designation, and receive a small grant award as an incentive.
Help me understand, in the Spaces and Places grant program, what is improve the built environment? Give me an example of what you're talking about.
So facade improvements, which is similar to what we offer through the Great Streets program. Also, we envision white boxing storefronts so that businesses could move in, and which would also improve our built environment, because we all know that small businesses lend so much to a livability of a community, and to have new storefronts with local businesses would be awesome for some of our neighborhoods. So we wanted to incentivize that.
Any other questions?
Yes, Councilwoman Mosley has her hand raised.
This might be a question. This might be a question for Councilman Fusco, or this Council Small Business Assistance for making a pledge. So would residents come through us or go through the city and say, we want to make the pledge? Like, how would that, give me an example of how that would run.
There's a lot of details that we're working out right now still, and we want to make sure that these other programs, the larger ones, get in place. I'm thinking in August we're going to really dedicate a lot of time to this one to make sure that we get it right. But we have, and I think it's safe for me to say that it's the health department is for the small businesses, but the health department is willing to work with us to do some training as well, like just a brief training type thing, and it would be a pledge, but we want to make it easy for the small business person and not cumbersome for them to do this, and then you get a seal or a piece of paper that says, this is a safe place. We pledge to do all this work to make it safe, so that whenever folks go into these businesses, they'll understand that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other hands?
There are none right now.
Okay, please continue.
Okay, and then finally, the last bucket is our budget stabilization, and these are the dollars that will be used for revenue replacement. So we talked about for 2022, we budgeted $10 million in the operating budget to cover the general fund. We have $24 million budgeted total over the life of the grant so far. And then the other area of expenditures in this area is the premium pay. So we budgeted $10 million, and that's anticipated to be spent over 2 years. So we already have premium pay amounts outlined for our police, fire, and 1360 bargaining units. We are still negotiating with CSPA. It is anticipated that we will also do some form of premium pay for the classified non-bargaining employees, which means anyone that is not elected or appointed, because those are not eligible for premium pay dollars under the federal guidance. So basically, city council, the city administration, anyone that's appointed in the city administration, and anyone that works in the courts would not be eligible for premium pay. So any questions about that?
Are there any hands? So the $5 million we saw was just $5 million per year. Is that what you were doing?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay, I thought it was just $5 million.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so very much for the updated information. Oh, you got one more area? I'm sorry, go ahead. Do you have another area, Mr. Franker?
No, that is Wait, we may have, I apologize, we do have one more page, and that is the administrative costs. So, as everyone's aware, we've retained the services of Guidehouse. You know, this is the administrative portion of looking at vetting all of these projects to make sure they're eligible. They are providing assistance with our quarterly reporting, with gathering information from the website, just a wide variety of services that they're offering to us. And then we also have the services of Voorhees for any legal questions that may come up. So we've actually spent money, a little bit of money with them to look at a couple of legal-related issues. And then finally, Market Me developed the kind of the front end of the website, so the look and feel of the website. So those are the three areas so far for our project delivery costs. Any questions about that?
Are there other questions about this?
Yes, Councilwoman Amobian, I can see that Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
Sure, Councilman Malik, please.
Thank you. Mr. Fricker, how much money has been expended towards Guidehouse?
So Guidehouse, to date, we have spent about $500,000, $522,000.
Okay, thank you. And I did have one separate question about the website going back, because we didn't take questions at that point, so I'll just ask it now. So on the website, will there be a way for citizens to provide feedback and ideas, suggestions, comments? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the updated information. I don't think there's any need to take any kind of motion or anything, correct, Sarah?
Correct. You can adjourn the meeting if you're finished.
So this is just an update. Please provide the information that we've asked you to provide as soon as you can. And thank you for your work. We appreciate all the efforts you've made thus far. Thank you. We are now adjourned.
That is the final committee meeting of the day. Council will meet at 7 p.m. tonight. Thank you.